Well, good morning. I am Mike Hamlet, the USCIS Industry Liaison, and I'd like to welcome you to USCIS headquarters, and more specifically to our beautiful auditorium, the Thomas Center. It's a state-of-the-art. For those here in person, you can see for yourself how beautiful it is. So welcome. We are excited about hosting our first in-person General Industry Day to be held in several years. I believe our last one was around 2018, 2019, so it's been a while. We hope you would take this time to meet someone new and catch up with some old friends. While we're happy to see familiar faces and new faces as part of this in-person engagement, we are using the latest collaboration tools, Microsoft Teams Live, to include those who could not travel here to participate. To our online partners, we want to encourage you to be active in this event by putting your question in the Q&A box, and we will be monitoring the box and we'll address your question. You can enter your question at any time, and we will respond to your question when it's appropriate throughout the program. For in-house, when we open the program up for questions, we ask that you come to one of our two microphones and ask your question. And if you like, introduce yourself. Our goal today is to provide you with a day of information about USCIS, where we are, where we're going, and how you can help get us there. You are here because you want to be a solution to the many challenges we face. So thank you for your interest in being part of this journey. Today's event is being recorded. We will post a YouTube link we will repost this recording to YouTube and post a link in sam.gov for your viewing at your convenience. During this event, you'll find 3 surveys represented by QR codes. You'll find a survey at the end of each executing division segment and a general survey for the event. We do want your feedback, so the surveys are created to collect your feedback anonymously. So feel free to respond openly. Additionally, you can find the QR codes on the agenda, and I hope all of you have a copy of the agenda. If not, they're at the back of the room. For our online partners, you should be able to scan the code from your screen, but again, we will post the agenda with the QR code after the event. Now, with all that out of the way, I'd like to get this Industry Day started and turn the program over to USCIS Chief of Contracting, Head of Contracting Activity, Amanda Duquette. Good morning, Amanda. I believe I warmed them up a little bit for you.
Good morning, everyone. Before we start, can I get the most welcoming round of applause for Mike Hamlet, who is our absolutely stellar industry liaison, and in our entire planning team, we have so many individuals helping us out today and coordinating this event, and we definitely could not do this without them. So welcome. It is so wonderful to see so many familiar and new faces in the room, and for those who are virtual, we really appreciate you taking the time to attend today. It is wonderful to be back in person and doing these events. For those who haven't been to a USCIS event, we really feed off of the engagement, so please bring your A game. If you need some coffee, let us know. As Mike mentioned, I'm Amanda Duquette, so I'm the Head of Contracting Activity here at USCIS. My team and I are here. We're around the room. We're some of the only people with the Fed badges, so if you are looking for us, just shout out. The USCIS-wide industry event is really here to not only spotlight a few specific acquisitions, so we'll do a deep dive. You guys have seen the agenda. Hopefully you're interested in some of those acquisitions. We will definitely be spotlighting some of those acquisitions here today. We really want to also address any concerns or areas of interest for you, so please make sure you're engaging with us in the Q&A. And lastly, we are also hearing from key agency leadership on some of their goals and priorities and challenges that you guys can help partner with us. So to kick us off in that, we are actually going to welcome our very first speaker, and that's Mr. Larry Denaire, and he is the Associate Director for Management Directorate. Larry has assumed this role in February 2020. Prior to that, he had many other positions within USCIS, to include the acting deputy director, my apologies, big word there, acting deputy director. He was the deputy chief information officer, my gosh, deputy CIO, and he was the Chief Information Security Officer, which is the one I was trying to get to in that whole list. So what that means for me, as I've watched Larry in all of these positions over the years, is he really brings a robust perspective, and he definitely understands the mission in a very unique way. And we very much welcome him sharing those perspectives. So please welcome Larry to the stage.
All right. Thank you, Amanda, and appreciate the kind introduction there and your dedicated leadership, of course, to the USCIS procurement community. As Amanda mentioned, my name is Larry Denaire. I'm the Associate Director for the Management Directorate, and it's my absolute great honor to welcome you to Industry Day today and kick things off here, which is a lot of fun. We're thrilled to have such a distinguished group of professionals gathered here today to discuss the latest trends and innovation and challenges in our industry. And I know that a lot of you are joining out there remotely, and I sincerely appreciate your participation there. And to those of you here in person, of course, a warm welcome to you. I hope you have a wonderful experience. As Mike was saying, we're very proud of our Camp Springs headquarters here, and this might be your inaugural visit. I hope that the parking, Bill and I looked out this morning, we saw the line of parking. I hope you all were able to get in here okay, and it's something we try to plan for and not send people over to the metro parking. But just appreciate you being here, and I hope you enjoy the venue as much as we do, and we have some really fantastic conversations today. But as Amanda said, having kind of overseen the delivery of mission support for the agency here at the agency, and prior to that, spending numerous years working with Bill and you all in the information technology sector, I have firsthand understanding of the role and that partnership with industry plays in achieving our agency mission. So I really much appreciate that. And as many of you know, collaboration isn't just a focus for DHS and USCIS leadership. It's really fundamental to our department's identity, and it lies at the heart of our DHS operations and our diverse mission set here. So this forum, really excited here, serves as a vital platform for fostering collaboration and building those partnerships that will drive our agency forward. And collaboration with you in industry here, our stakeholders, it's really is core of our ability to deliver on our wonderful mission that we have here at USCIS, and hopefully you are all very familiar with that. The importance of coming together here, whether it's online or here in the room, to exchange ideas and best practices, we really cannot overstate that. And for this reason, opportunities like today's Industry Day are extremely important. Today, we provide a forum for both USCIS and industry to have meaningful two-way communications. And during the program, you'll have the opportunity to hear, as Mike and Amanda mentioned, from various leaders across USCIS who will discuss key priorities that span several of our mission areas. And I'm confident the discussions and interactions that take place today will not only be enlightening, but also lay the foundation for collaboration that will benefit everyone involved here. But before we begin, I did want to take just a few minutes to highlight some of our procurement accomplishments for fiscal year 2023 and discuss with you some of the agency priorities. So USCIS is an agency of nearly 22,000 dedicated professionals carrying out our mission alongside 15,000 contractor employees authorized to work and support our contract portfolio. And it is worth noting that we are a growing agency. We've expanded from about 18,000 employees just a couple of years ago as we were coming out of the pandemic there. USCIS procured $1.6 billion worth of goods and services last fiscal year. I think as many as you are aware, we are an agency that operates on fee-funded revenues. About 96% of our revenue stems from fees, and this model really offers us a lot of advantages of a direct correlation between service usage and funding, which is a big benefit for us. In 2023, we had 33 companies that received their first ever contracts with the federal government through the targeted efforts of USCIS to attract new entrants to do business with us. And thanks to the work of our acquisition community, and this is something we take very seriously here at USCIS, we expect that USCIS will contribute significantly to DHS receiving another grade of A or higher on the Small Business Administration scorecard. And if you don't know, an A or higher on the scorecard means that the department exceeded its goals for contracting and subcontracting with small business. So that's a really big and important one. I know Amanda and I are always, debating this, watching this, see where we're at as far as how we're doing as we end the fiscal year. So reaching these goals also supports our larger set of initiatives from the administration. Under Executive Order 13985, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, it directs federal agencies to improve spending from a cost standpoint and to find ways to make the procurement process more accessible to our small business partners. We addressed the administration's call to action several ways in fiscal year 2023. Our strong commitment to category management also helped us exceed our spend under management and best-in-class spending goals with the accomplishment of 98% and 76% respectively. Meeting these goals means we are able to procure common goods and services efficiently while establishing strong industry partnership. USCIS, of course, values competition in our procurement process. We have the highest competition rate of any heads of contracting activity across the department last year at 89.3%. And I have no doubt that we'll surpass this competition goal this year. Now, all these numbers and stats are very impressive, but we couldn't have accomplished them without our partnership with industry in delivering on the USCIS mission. We're really very satisfied with our industry partnership, and we look forward to continued collaboration as we work to reduce our capability gaps that are out there and strengthen our mission delivery over the next few years. Moreover, we know that there's always room to grow and mature as an agency. For that reason, our leadership team clearly establishes our agency goals and priorities, and we continue to rely on your support to achieve them. So as we gather today with a focus on advancing our mission at USCIS, we recognize the critical role that USCIS plays in fostering economic growth, promoting innovation through legal immigration. Many of you are familiar with our critical mission, which is administering and enforcing the nation's immigration laws, safeguarding the integrity of the immigration system, and facilitating legal immigration. USCIS accomplishes this mission by providing accurate and timely information to immigrants and the public, adjudicating immigration's benefits fairly and efficiently, and ensuring the security and integrity of our immigration system. We, like many of our sister components within the department, have a very dynamic mission that requires us to implement innovative solutions, particularly in the information technology space, to rapidly surge resources to address emerging needs. In creating and developing these solutions, we rely heavily on our contract partners to utilize your extensive experience and talents in collaborating with us. For USCIS to successfully meet our mission, we need your support. Whether you're a current USCIS contractor or are interested in supporting our incredible mission in the future. We need you to learn our mission, our challenges, and our limitations so we can successfully perform in our environment to deliver the top-notch services that you are known for. We understand how competitive the labor market is and ask your firms to strategically hire and apply your resources in support of your USCIS projects to deliver high caliber teams that will be successful in winning contracts and delivering on the promises of your proposal. Through partnership, we've harnessed the power of people, process, and technology to largely achieve digital transformation in our move away from paper-based processes here at USCIS. We've streamlined our application intake processes by expanding our online capabilities, and we've driven efficiencies by centralizing our data entry, fee collection, and case receipting for our paper-based intake channels. Furthermore, we've put into place and sustained robust capabilities in our digital case management and supporting systems. These capabilities enable a range of tasks, including identification of applicants, security checks, collection of evidence, workload distribution, adjudicative decision-making, and finally, the issuance of immigration benefit documentation like the like cards and notices. Nonetheless, it's critical that we continue to advance by actively pursuing the objectives and priorities outlined in the USCIS strategic plan as published by the director last year. If you haven't done so already, I encourage you to check out that 28-page document that's out on uscis.gov. Don't worry, there's a lot of pictures in it. It's a quick read, but take a look at that thing. It really does provide all of us, whether federal employees or contractors, a comprehensive roadmap to uphold the legal immigration system, engage our workforce, and collaborate to deliver high-quality results. From this plan, I would like to take just a brief moment to highlight just a couple of priority areas that we'll be discussing later today. The first is enhancing the customer experience. To support this priority, we are working to leverage technology, of course, to better support our workforce and service our customers. For example, through our customer experience improvements, we will effectively reduce administrative burdens, simplify both public-facing and internal processes to improve efficiency, and empower the USCIS workforce to solve problems to meet the mission goals. We've made progress in this area tied to the development of the My USCIS application. You will hear more about these important initiatives later in both the Technology Portfolio DevOps panel and the External Affairs Directorate briefing on contact center procurement. Secondly, through digital transformation, we are also revamping the agency's infrastructure to create a more efficient and adaptable workspace that meets both the needs of our workforce and the public. To support this endeavor, we are leading among the federal agencies in shaping the future of work by formulating and implementing policies that better accommodate our workforce across various work settings, including in-person, hybrid, and remote work environments. Of course, we're demonstrating that right here with this industry day with you gathered here and the folks online. We understand that our future work policies may affect some of the tasks you undertake in support of USCIS. These policies have been carefully crafted to facilitate a move away from exclusively in-person work wherever possible, wherever feasible, and to ensure that our workforce, including our supporting contractors, have access to the necessary tools and technologies to carry out their vital mission. As we continue to invest in this realm, we are discovering that it provides USCIS with a significant competitive advantage, enabling us to attract, develop, and retain talent. And this flexible workforce offers our workforce a balanced environment conducive to both wellness and productivity. And industry, you all are at the center of supporting and enabling this priority, as we'll be discussing this later again as well in the operational briefs and the panels later in the program. So in closing, the USCIS strategic plan serves as our roadmap. Take a look at it. It really does guide our efforts to build upon the progress we've achieved in investing in our workforce, enhancing mission delivery, and better serving the public. If you take a look at it, I assure you that you will immediately recognize where your firm fits in and how it can contribute to the value in our mission. To sustain our success and fulfill these priorities, we rely on your partnership to provide the right goods and right solutions in support of our mission. In our increasingly digital environment, we also require your resources and expertise to drive innovation responsibly, leveraging emerging technologies to automate and streamline our processes. Your assistance is also critical in enhancing decision-making through data analysis and visualization, enabling us to measure and continuing to enhance our performance, so continuing to get better and better here. Through collaboration and by leveraging our culture of agile, iterative delivery, and a commitment to innovation, we can maintain America's promise as a welcoming nation. Leaders from across USCIS are here today to share more about implementing our agency's priorities and provide you with insight into how you can help. The panels you'll attend today too and networking opportunities provided aren't just about making business connections, but truly a chance to make measurable contributions to our nation. Thank you again for being here today and taking part of this important discussion. I hope that you enjoy and learn from today's programs. I encourage you to listen critically and use your new knowledge to continually improve the way you do business with the government. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Larry, and we really appreciate you taking the time out of your incredibly busy schedule. As you can see, this agency has a tremendous amount going on, and Larry is in the thick of it in his role as the Associate Director for Management Directorate, overseeing all of the CXO lines of business, to include contracting. And so we really appreciate his support and dedication. Larry's comments about engaging with us on some of our efforts and understanding where we are with various procurements. He is very ingrained in our mission delivery and understanding how he can support and enable. So we really have a strong ally in Larry and appreciate his support here today. As we transition to our next segment of the event, I'm actually going to call OCON leadership up to the stage so you guys all have a chance to meet them and hear from them today. So I'm going to call Eli Roquet, the Deputy HCA for USCIS. I'm going to call Danielle Hubbard next. She is our Small Business Specialist. And then Michelle Redding, and she is our second deputy in the Office of Contracting who has delegated the authorities of the COCO per the FAR. And then we have, next up is going to be Chris, trying to go in order here. Chris Hatton, he is our Technology Division Chief, and then Rex Steves, our Operation Division Chief. So we'll give them a chance to get settled. As they do, I'm going to start by sharing a little bit on my philosophy regarding industry engagement. So I find that industry engagement is extremely important here at USCIS because it's your support that has consistently helped us deliver the right solutions to enable the USCIS mission. Open engagement with industry, like what we hope to accomplish here today, is essential to continually improving the procurement experience for all stakeholders involved in the procurement process, including you, our industry partners. Our office has seen the positive impacts that collaboration with industry has had in the past few years, and we want to continue to build on that partnership as we collaborate to build contractual solutions that meet our known need today and can accommodate our vision moving forward. Events like today are crucial for building and maintaining mutually beneficial relationships between government and industry, which is why alongside the great speakers and panelists we have to hear from today, you'll also have opportunities to network, which is one of the biggest benefits of events like this. Please take the opportunity to network and engage with all of us, to include asking questions of interest in the various Q&A panels or sessions that we'll have in between the panels and scattered throughout today's event. While today's event won't go into detail on all of the procurements we currently have in the pipeline, you can obtain the latest information from the APFS system and on our quarterly conference calls with industry. We strive to be transparent. What that means is as soon as major decisions are made, you will be among the first as our industry partners to know where we're headed. In addition, I want to reemphasize that our doors are always open. We welcome the opportunity to meet with you. So as many of you know, our wonderful industry liaison, Mike Hamlet, who's emceeing the event, he is always available to support and coordinate. So if you haven't familiarized yourself with our website and the vendor outreach mailbox, please do so. And don't hesitate to reach out to Mike for any help making connections with our program offices. One of the areas that we ask that you never, ever hesitate to reach out for us is to ask questions when something doesn't make sense. Reach out if you realize something can be improved. Please, we encourage you to ask us what we really need if it's not clear, and to offer solutions. You are at the forefront of it all. You understand what the marketplace can deliver and where we might have a gap in our capabilities and where there might be something for us to consider. So please reach out and keep that communication open. So knowing that my transparent, real-time communication is a priority, we really want to make sure that any issues related to procurements are brought to our attention and that we really do engage with you open and honestly. So leading into today's discussion, I want to introduce everybody, let them share a few words, and so that you can get to know them. They are the individuals that you want to talk to on a daily basis when something is going on an acquisition. I'm going to start by just foreshadowing a little bit about our organization. For those who know the Office of Contracting, we have grown dramatically in the last 10 years. And what that means is instead of a very small office in Williston, Vermont, we are now a worldwide organization. I say that, but it's continental US, really, in Alaska. We have about 150 professionals that support us in a highly dynamic remote virtual environment. And so while we are in Vermont, you can always come up and visit us. We are virtual. And as we onboard all these new individuals, it really takes a minute to get them in the fold and really embrace the culture here at USCIS. So it's our leadership team that is really emphasizing those philosophies and bringing them forward. So I'm going to kick it over to Eli Roque to lead us.
All right, thank you. Can you guys hear me? Good morning, everybody. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Eli Roque. I'm the Deputy HCA here in the Office of Contracting. I will tell you a little bit about my role and then share a couple of thoughts, a couple of takeaways that I think I just want to leave with you today. In addition to supporting the HCA in just everything that Amanda needs on a day-to-day basis, which is a full-time job on itself, I also oversee our policy and oversight division. Also, sort of our chief of staff function within the office, dealing with all the hiring and things of that nature, as well as our newly created suspension debarment team within OCON. Also oversee the SBS function, small business specialist function, Danielle, some of you I'm sure know her. And then as well as the industry liaison, just sort of team with Mike Hamlet as well. So a little bit about my background. I've been with USCIS now for about 12 years. Prior to that, my experience was mainly with DoD, primarily Marine Corps and Army. But been with USCIS about 12 years, and love every minute of it. It's a USCIS mission is one of those that is very near and dear to my heart, so I'm happy to be here, happy to support the mission and be part of the Office of Contracting. A couple of just takeaways that I just want to leave with you, and that you're going to hear from everyone, and you kind of get the sense that some of this is repetitive, but I think it's worth just repeating some of this stuff. The first thing that I wanted to just emphasize is the importance of communication and engagement. And the way that I'm looking at it, I'm not so much referring to the, calling into the quarterly calls that Mike hosts hosting every quarter, or just coming to events like this is all part of communication and engagement, or responding to RFIs. I'm looking more at the side of when there are issues, when something is not going right. We want to be able to resolve those issues at the lowest level possible. So while, of course, work with the contracting officer, deal with that CO and the CS to resolve an issue. But if you are getting nowhere, know that everyone in this panel is here as a resource to try to resolve whatever the issue is, it's going on. I see that we're not really good about leveraging, for example, if you're in a situation where you decide that you have to protest and go to GAO, I don't see a lot of leveraging, for example, agency level protests. So give us a chance to correct the problem. Give us a call, talk to us before you elevate the issue. Even not just on a protest issue, but even if you're dealing with something with a small business, if you're a small business entity and you have a concern about a set aside or an upcoming requirement, reach out to Danielle. Try to bring your concern to her before going to DHS. Give us a chance to fix the problem. So that's one takeaway that I would like you to take. The second one is, it really, and I was talking to Michelle, kind of going through our notes yesterday about what we will be talking about today. And she mentioned something, I'm going to steal this phrase from her. She said, the easy part is to win the contract. And I know that's relative, but there's a lot of merit to that statement in the fact that, we can sort of all kind of put together a pretty decent, technically capable proposal at a competitive price. You can come in and do a really good tech demo for us. But what really counts, what really is going to make a difference is once you get that contract, are you delivering on that promise from that proposal? And are you fulfilling the terms and conditions of that contract? So I want that to be a big takeaway. I want you to come whenever you're, competing for our contracts. And I see a lot of, current contract holders in the audience today, the emphasis really should be on delivering on that promise. It is, as I mentioned earlier, the mission of USCIS is very near and dear to my heart. So I take this part a little bit personal. With the growing up in DOD and the background, as you all know, the big thing was taxpayers' dollars, and make sure that we're maximizing the use of taxpayers' dollars to support the warfighter. Here in USCIS, as Larry mentioned on the opening remarks, we are largely funded by fee funds. Those fee funds come from immigrants that are, applying for a certain benefit, whether it's a citizenship or a green card or a work permit or some sort of, benefit that they're getting from USCIS. So there is a lot of sacrifices that those families have to make. And personally, I went through that, being a young enlisted Marine with a growing family, having to get a second job so that I could save enough money so that I could apply for my citizenship. So we have a responsibility to make sure that we're safeguarding those funds that we're getting for those immigrants, and that we're delivering on whatever outcome we're looking for, whether it's an LS capability or my USCIS capability, or is that application support center admin support, whatever it is, we owe it to them to make sure that we're bringing the best solution forward. And for that, we have to rely on you. It blows my mind every time I hear that metric. I think it's 22,000 feds that Larry mentioned and 15,000 contractors. I would challenge you to find any other agency out there that has that sort of ratio that relies so heavily on contractors to support their mission. So you're critical to our success, and looking forward to our event today. Happy to see everyone. And with that, I will kick it over to Danielle.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Danielle Hubbard, and I serve as the Small Business Specialist here at USCIS. So in my role, I work very closely with Mike, our industry liaison, and with you all, our industry partners. So I'm very excited that you all could join us today, whether here at USCIS headquarters or for those who have joined us virtually. Super excited. I think this is an important event, and I'm happy to see that hopefully this will kind of kickstart us having this event more regularly, kind of post-pandemic. So thank you all. I'm very proud to say that here at USCIS, we do a great job to support the small business programs. And if we could advance the slides. I have some metrics for you all. And one more. Thank you. So as you can see here, I wanted to share kind of what our small business goals are for this fiscal year, as well as where we are currently for achievement towards those goals. So that's what's up on the slide. And as you can see, we so far are doing a fantastic job. We are exceeding in all categories for our small business goals. So we are also currently projecting to meet our small business, hub zone, SDV, OSB, and women-owned goals, feeling very confident with those. The one area that we kind of have our work cut out for us, and as you all probably are aware, with Executive Order 13985, our SDB goal has been increasing over the past couple of years. Notably this fiscal year, it increased by 5%. So we are still, have some work to do towards that SDB goal to ensure that we are where we need to be at year end. So, kind of as you're following along in the acquisition planning forecast system, which hopefully you all are, you'll see that some kind of strategies that we're using to work towards that goal are, when our market research supports it and it makes sense, we're really trying to see what can we do to reach 8A companies who are all SDB, or, SDV, OSB, women-owned, and hub zone, which all have a higher likelihood of also being SDB. So, really kind of working to have another successful year. As Larry mentioned, we've met all of our goals previously. We keep getting an A on the scorecard, and we're very proud of that. So we're going to continue to work hard to support those programs. With all that being said, you know, there are certainly times where our market research doesn't necessarily show that a set aside is appropriate. And so we are also very grateful for all of our industry partners here who are other than small businesses or large businesses. You know, we rely on you all to meet our mission and to be successful as well. So I want to close with just encouraging you all to please take advantage of the time that we have factored in for networking today. Not only with just us here from USCIS, but with each other, right? So use that time to talk to each other about the requirements that we're going to discuss today or others that we might not be discussing, and discuss, you know, subcontracting opportunities, potential for partnering and teaming arrangements. So just really take advantage of being here together today. And thank you all.
Good morning, everybody. I am Michelle Redding. I am actually new to USCIS. I am Amanda's deputy. I am the chief of contracting, the COCO, as some people have noticed. But I've been here for about 6 months. Previous to that, I was at the IRS as the division chief over there. And I'm very excited to be here. It is something, the mission is amazing. The employees, the managers, the just all around amazing place to be. The amount of competition, as you heard we do, is simply astronomical. Something that is truly not seen in every agency across the organizations and outside. We are here today. As you see, I had notes, but I think everybody has kind of touched on those, so I'm kind of winging it right now, so bear with me. But we are very excited to have you guys here. We want to engage with you. We want to see what the trends are. We want to see what's changed. What is there out there for us to help you, for you guys to in turn help us. We truly, when we go to do RFIs, when we go to do industry days, we are truly looking for you guys to bring your A games to those events, to help us, to mold us, our strategies and our acquisitions into something that can be successful for you and in turn successful for the USCIS mission. As you know, the USCIS mission is an incredible mission to the American people, to the immigrants that are trying to become United States citizens. We truly want to make that transition and the programs that we offer as easy as possible and as safe as possible for the United States and for those individuals coming into this country. When we look to do the RFIs and industry days, I know it's a lot of work. We know it, we truly do. But the gain that you get and that we get for the molding that acquisition strategy is immense, is incredible. And we do look to you to assist us with that. We do a lot of research. We do a ton of market research. Program offices do a ton of research. We follow up with that research, but you guys are out there in the throes of it. You see different things than we see. So please engage us today, engage us. If you see us walking around, don't hesitate to stop us, talk to us. But please remember that what we talk about today and the different division chiefs and their associate chiefs, what they talk about today, this is informational purpose, for informational purposes. This is real time. This is truly the knowledge that we have today as we mold this acquisition strategy. At the end of the day, what you see in that RFP, what you see in the evaluation criteria, what you see in writing is what everyone will be bound to. Things may change after today. Things may change after tomorrow. We don't know. But that is truly where we're looking to you guys for your expertise. So like I said earlier, I was the COCO. So I manage and assist my two division chiefs. We have Chris Hatton over the technology and Rex Steve over the operational side of the house. I'm going to introduce them. Chris will be back this afternoon for technology. Rex is going to be staying up here and bringing up his team this morning to have the whole morning for operations. Please, again, do not hesitate to ask questions, engage us. We'll go back and forth, and we will, we'll be able to discuss what we can discuss at the time on these procurements. And if we can't discuss it, you will get an honest answer saying, hey, at this time we don't know. At this time we can't answer that. Those are just the honest answers that we have to provide. So welcome. I'm extremely happy to see everybody in-house, virtual. Please, there's going to be a bunch of QR codes also today. There's a QR code for the agenda. There's a QR code for each session for the different divisions. There's questions that you guys are going to be able to answer. They're going to go to SurveyMonkey. It is not a live survey results, but we get to see them and see who's interested, anything that, contact information and such. Please don't hesitate to do the surveys. There will be one other survey at the end of the day. Please don't hesitate to fill that out and complete it. We do take all the survey responses. That way we can improve. This is the first one they've had since I think 2016. So in person, we have the quarterly industry calls, but this is the first in-person one since 2016. So please, any suggestions you have for us, we'd love to have them. And thank you again. And Chris.
All right, good morning, everyone. I'll keep this brief so we can get to the most important part of the day. So I'm Chris Iden, the Chief of the Technology Division. I've been with OCON for about 16 years now, and as Larry said, we grew to 22,000 beds. I've seen us in the last 4 years as being the division chief grow from 21 folks to 50 folks within my division. So with that, I want you guys to take away, as we say, communication and collaboration. Reach out to us. We want to know what you guys have to say. Like Eli mentioned, it's really about what's working, what's not working. We want to hear from you. Are we going to just do an oral presentation for everything? Are we going to do tech demos? We want to know what you guys think on whether or not it should be a written proposal, if it should be a technical demonstration, if you guys want to come in for orals, how we should use that phased approach to be able to get to that best evaluation strategy. So reach out to us, let us know. As Michelle said, I'll be here in the afternoon as well. We have 5 or 6 great topics for you. We've got some great panel members, and we look forward to engaging with you further.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. First off, that's a big deal. Taking time out of your schedule, it means money. So we all know that, and we'll make this as hopefully as entertaining as we can. That said, if you've been to Toastmasters, you're supposed to open with a joke. But what I realized yesterday was if you're the only one laughing, you're not a good comedian. So I'm not good at telling jokes, but I will give you a joke at a break if you want to come find me, and I'll give you some of my good ones. But again, I'm usually the one laughing the hardest, so it doesn't work that well. 30 years in the Air Force. And if you know anything about the Air Force, I'll roll through some acronyms: AFSOC, ACC, AMC, ended at AFMC, Air Force Material Command, and then culminated at the Pentagon at SAF AQC. Under General Blake, if you know him. And in 2016, transitioned to DHS and this component USCIS. Great transition, great group of people. I'm going to have a little bit more to say about the division itself in a minute, but always humbled and always proud, right? Like the people are humbling because they're so smart, they're so dedicated. They work so hard to make sure that they're doing the right thing for the American people, for you, and our mission. And proud because of that same fact. I mean, they really do work so very hard at this job. And if you've ever been in 1102 prior to what you do now, you know it's not an easy job. If you've never been, the thing that you do on your side is not easy. The whole process is kind of meant to be a little bit hard, I think. We're supposed to be a speed bump. But anyways, it's really a great transition, great mission. So happy you're here and looking forward to partnering with you in the future and you helping us meet our needs. Amanda.
All right, thank you. So for those keeping track, we have about 10 minutes now, and I open this up for our very first Q&A. If there's anything that you would like to ask this particular panel, this group of wonderful leadership of our Office of Contracting, feel free to come on up to the mics, and I'll also open it up. We do have, I guess, just Mike over there right now. Was Mike and Danielle? Oh, Stuart's helping. Watching Microsoft Teams Live so that we can incorporate any feedback or comments coming in from our virtual audience. So if you are on Teams Live, feel free to type something in the Q&A if you want to make sure you're asking a question of this panel. And we have our first volunteer. I can, but I'm not sure if it's the mic. Is there, can you hit some buttons there? Oh, it's actually coming on, I think.
Thank you. Thank you. Just something to consider as you guys are releasing those. I know that draft RFPs are always appreciated. It gives us time to really put our teams together and think about responses. And thank you very much for your mission. I appreciate it very much.
Good morning, panel. Does it work? Yeah, good. My name is Mohammed Manai. I love the new HQ. Last time I worked for USCIS was at 110 Mass and 20 Mass, so love it here. This is great. Hope to explore the HQ a bit more. I wanted to talk about retention and its relationship with scoring contractors. I know that retention is a struggle, especially with the high competitive rates that the USCIS contracts have. Is there, just looking for thoughts, opinions, considerations in considering retention within a contract as part of the scoring of the contractor?
Absolutely, and we welcome, especially if anyone ever has a suggestion, if you have some associated language or a situation where it worked really well or didn't. So it's no secret, like for example, CPARS is a good repository for some of that information for us to bounce it off. We also do coordinate a lot with prior contracting officers that worked on a particular project that's referenced in that proposal. It's hard to take a lot of weight in contractor submitted proposal numbers about retention, right? You want to be able to validate that. So if you guys have some ideas about how we can really assess that and make sure it's comparable, right? What were the labor rates in the environment in that particular contract where they had great retention, and were they a little less competitive than what they are proposing on this particular project, in which case it might not transcend into what we'll actually see in performance. So those are just some of the things that come to mind right away about how we would actualize that. One of the things that we have done quite dramatically, I think a good portion of our new IT acquisitions in particular is have affordability ranges, where we're really trying to signal the industry what we think is an affordable price for the effort, so that we are not driving excessive competition in the labor rates such that it might endanger the quality and caliber of the individuals that you're able to recruit and retain. So again, any feedback on that process, very much appreciated.
And in your proposal response, hopefully you will highlight that part of it in your past performance, in your CPARs, in your staffing plans, et cetera, et cetera. That in the capability statement is where that is going to come out, and ensure whether it is you allowed them to have remote flexibilities, you know, different things that you've allowed and perks and benefits that your company has allowed. Obviously, if it's labor hour and they're under the Service Contract Act, you're kind of, you know, bound to the Service Contract Act, but I've seen a lot of vendors also have a little bit of a bonus to be able to keep and retain really good talent. So we do evaluate that. We do show it, but we need you guys to show it in your proposal submission, that you have 80%, 90%, 100% retention for the last 5 years based on these locations and this analysis and such. So we do consider that and look at that.
Lovely. Appreciate everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. One thing Michelle just mentioned, and I'll piggyback on it because it's when you see it in action that you kind of have that aha learning moment. So we have this one contract in particular that does a really good job of doing kind of retention and productivity bonuses, things of the like in performance of that contract. But keep that in mind, especially if it's a Service Contract Act, contract, because while you might have bid the contract such that you could afford that, as the wage determinations increase, you are not getting a dollar for dollar increase for each wage determination because you're already in excess of the WD. And so just keep that in mind.
Hi there, and thank you. Sandy Mastry with Anakim Consulting. It's kind of a two-part. I'm curious on one thing because I've heard from other offices and other agencies too. What is the average response you're getting to market research from small business? That's a really important one because I know that we're asked as small businesses to respond, but a couple things, we're small resources trying to select which ones to really, where do we really have an opportunity, especially if we're new to the agency. So that's kind of part one. Part two is from an industry standpoint and from your standpoint, what are we not, when we do respond, what are we missing? How do we differentiate ourselves? What are you seeing? What's the trends that you're seeing from us in industry? Because that way we can get better too in responding to you.
Sure, yeah, no, great questions. I will just kind of highlight that while we understand that it does take time and resources to respond to those RFIs and to our market research, requests for any type of information, it is so important in terms of how we determine our acquisition strategy. We really do often use those RFI responses to determine if we're going to do a set aside. So really ensuring that you are responding to the specific questions that we ask is important, and talking about your past performance or whatever experience you have is important. It's also sorry, there was one other thing that I wanted to say. Yeah, I'm sorry, that escaped me. What was the second part of your question? Okay. Okay. Yeah, no. Yep. Sure. No. Okay. Thank you. So in terms of like what can be done better, sometimes with our RFI responses, we see like, do you have this experience? Yes. Without really explaining like what that looked like, how you overcame challenges, how you were successful, what your approach was, and then relating it back to our requirements. So, if we also provided a draft PWS with our RFI, tying it back to what we're looking for in our requirement is really important. And, one thing I think we're working to do more of is following back up. If we have a small business that has provided a response that maybe they lacked in some areas that are important, but otherwise kind of knocked the ball out of the park and looked like they would be a good fit. Part of my job as the small business specialist is to review that market research and say, hold on, this vendor looks like they might be capable. Let's follow back up on, XYZ. And that really just depends on kind of the response as a whole, because obviously that's going to take some time and effort to invest in following up with small businesses and with vendors. But yeah, those are some things that I would say.
Yeah, no, I think it's important to also realize that we're looking at hearing more from you guys as well too. Like, what do you want to share during that RFI process? We have a working group put together right now that's looking at like not asking 30 questions on an RFI. Like, what do we truly want to hear from you guys? Talking to the program, like we can't just take the PWS and turning it into a question format so that we can hear from you there. So what do we truly need to hear in order to make positive changes that we can pull through into sections L and M on making that important to you guys?
Hi, I'm Rob. Is this working? I am Rob Giannasoni. Quick question. As far as statistics that were presented, 70% is the target for this fiscal year. how much of that has been an increase from last fiscal year? And of that, what's the target rate so far? Have you met? How far are you from meeting those goals?
So 70% is not the target. That's our current achievement. So you'll see that our goal for small business as a whole this fiscal year is 49%. So as of, I think it was yesterday, we have achieved 70% of our obligated dollars have gone to small business. So we're kind of doing, we do an analysis, it's kind of twofold. We look at where we are at currently, and also what do we expect to, where do we expect to be at year end? So.
And what was the comparison? Is that from last fiscal year? Have you seen an increase?
Oh, okay, great question. Yeah, we're actually pretty comparable, slightly increased on almost all metrics from where we were at this point last fiscal year. So we do a month-by-month comparison to say, hey, are we still on track? And right now we are. We are, like I said, still trying to target that SDB goal. So there are some slight shifts in, specifically those socioeconomic categories and where we are obligating funds within those to try to ensure we're targeting the SDB category overall. But we're very much kind of in alignment with last year.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, and we will take one final question before we transition to the ops panel. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Ashley Burkhart. I'm with Ironbow. I do have a quick question about your brand name justification process. I have noticed in supporting DHS as a whole for the last 6 years, there's been quite a few contracts that have come out with one that didn't necessarily need one because the functionality could meet across multiple OEMs, so the spend then is higher. So I'm just curious on how to approach that and to kind of bring that to contracting's attention.
I think in the moment is definitely real-time communication. If you see something, say something. So with the brand name justification, some of it's redacted. There might have been a sentence or two in there that talked about compatibility or something that might have been a limiting factor in addition to the salient characteristics of the functionality. There's a lot of interoperability. Now we're getting into a lot of things that we'll probably talk about later, Bill, not to foreshadow, but like, the software attestation forms, really trying to look at the hygiene of the code and the interoperability to really safeguard our systems. So there could have been something there, but we won't know until we're having that conversation. So if you see something, if you had a product offering that you want to bring to the table, absolutely engage with us about that brand name justification and about what you see as potential gaps in that process.
Would you recommend us reach out and actually talk to the contracting officer that's on that specific contract, or is there a specific office that we should reach out to?
Yeah, we would probably partner not only the contracting officer, but with the core, the PM, the individual who really was giving us a lot of the specifics about what they require and what those limitations are, because they're going to be the SME that's going to be able to sift through, what our barriers might be for another product offering.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Absolutely. All right, well, we are going to hop off stage and turn it over to Rex, who is going to lead us in our operations panel. Thank you.
All right, test. Good morning again. Rex Steves, Operations Division Chief. And again, so happy that you're here and being a part of this great event today. And excited that you're here because you, as Eli said, make up a large part of our capability here in USCIS. You can see from the agenda, I'm not going to read the whole slide, I'll just do a brief intro here. We have 3 highlighted areas for you today. We have a lot of things going on. This is just a tiny taste of all the stuff that we do every day. And I'll go into that in a second on the next slide. But first up today, we'll have EXA. And during the EXA brief, we're going to focus on CCT1, which is our contact center. Very interesting. And Mary Shinney, who is an associate chief and contracting officer within our office, she will be presenting that portion of today's brief on the actual acquisition itself. And then following her, we'll have Al Izaklis come up, and I know I butchered that. I apologize, Al. But anyways, he'll come up and give the program perspective. And as you can see there, he's the acting chief of the Office of Access and Information Services. So very privileged to have participation from our program office to give you what they're seeing and how they see their requirements evolving into the future. And each one of our PMOs will do that, and hopefully show you how you can better interact and better gauge what we need in the future so that you can better propose. Next up would be Immigration Records and Identity Service, or IRIS. And for that brief, we have from our office, Stuart Sellers, Associate Chief and Contracting Officer, and he's going to focus on ROS, Records Operations Support Services contract. And following him from the Program Management Office would be Daniel Beeson, and he is the Communications Advisor for IRIS. And again, providing the same kind of tone and tenor as the first one. You know, what does IRIS see in the future? How can you partner and achieve those, that partnership to achieve our requirements and our mission set within IRIS? And then lastly, we follow, last but not least, followed up by FOD, the Field Operations Directorate, and there we'll have Eric Bishop, Associate Chief and Contracting Officer, and he's going to focus on FOSS, the Field Office Support Services contract, that recompete. And then following him from the program office will be Natalie Lalonde, and she's the branch chief of the Communications and Employee Engagement section there within FOD. So, so pleased that we have this group of people here today. Again, it's a big deal for them to take time out of their schedule, just as it is for you. Everybody's plate is full, everybody is busy, but the importance of this kind of outweighs that, at least for today. So happy that we have these folks here. Next slide, and that's me. So if you've joined our industry quarterly calls, right, you're familiar with this slide. And I only present it again for those who may have not seen it and maybe to foot stomp a couple things. The intro is easy. You know, in the operations division, you know, we buy everything. And when I mean everything. So if you've watched a naturalization ceremony, right, the people that hold those little flags, right, as they're going through the ceremony, we buy those flags, right? And we've had people go and see that production actually happen. And they're only pennies, you know, but we buy those. And we also buy furniture, all the stuff you're sitting in, right? We buy all that stuff, you know, it's crazy. And then we buy IT within operations as well, as you may know. And then we buy these massive service contracts like application support centers, and we're currently working on a multi-billion-dollar service contract, PAX 3 for DHS. So we're not only doing acquisitions within USCIS, but we're actually performing acquisitions for DHS to also include the reverse auction tool within operations. So we're doing a lot of stuff. We got a lot of great people working on that. And customer base, everybody. Everybody but OIT, really. I mean, OIT is, you know, a customer that we handle specifically through tech, and you'll learn way more than you want to know probably today in today's briefing this afternoon. But we handle everybody else, and that's challenging because everybody has a different need, a different requirement, and everybody's requirement is what? Priority 10? No. Everybody's priority 1, right? Everybody's need is the most important need at that second. So we are moving fast all the time. And types of acquisitions, we touch every single part of the FAR. There's nothing that we don't shy away from. So we tackle it all, and happy to do so. And the only reason that we can do that is because of those folks on the bottom, right? That cadre of contracting officers that we have, as Amanda had said, we built that from coast to coast, literally. Some of the finest contracting officers I've had the opportunity to work with. literally able to bring in from other agencies the best of the best. And so humbling to be around them. Man, just some real smart people. So happy to have them. I hope that you feel the same way when you work with them. If you don't, give me a call, I guess. But hopefully you do. I mean, we really do have some great talent, and just keep bringing on more talent. I mean, just so awesome to have them here. You know, but the bottom line is, with all that said and all the stuff that we do that's important and hard and long hours and doing stuff that is meaningful for this agency, we can't do it without you. And that is just a simple fact. It cannot be done without you. And so your partnership and your understanding of our requirements and then providing us proposals that reflect that understanding, so critical to what we do. And that kind of leads to your question on the RFIs, right? And needing to know, hey, is the capability out there? Can we get to you, right? And if we do set it aside, if it's a small business set aside, can you really do it, right? We got to know that stuff. And so, but we really do appreciate your partnership and your interest in our agency. It's a very important mission for not only us in the agency, but obviously the American people and, of course, the immigrants that are coming to our country. So thank you very much for everything that you do. And with that, and you provide, obviously, the capability, you know, and the competencies that we don't have internally in a lot of areas. So I appreciate that. With that said, I'm going to turn it over to Mary Shinney first to talk through EXA. And then she will be followed by Al. So, Mary, you have the mic. Thanks.
Good morning, and thank you, Rex. So my name is Mary Shinney, and I am an associate chief in the Office of Contracting in the Operations Division, and I have the pleasure today of sharing a little bit of information about the contact center contract and future acquisition. And following the remarks that I will provide this morning, I will then turn it over to my partner Al, who will share some information about the future and the vision of the contact center contract. So if I can have the next slide, please. Oh. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so just a little bit of information about the contact center contract. So USCIS oversees the lawful immigration for the United States of America. USCIS is responsible for adjudicating almost 33,000 requests every day for various immigration benefits, such as processing applications for naturalization, lawful permanent residence, and also humanitarian initiatives. USCIS also verifies employment eligibility for new hires. And there's also many other services that we provide. So USCIS has been designated as a high impact service provider, and the contact center contract currently provides tier 1 level support for the agency in the form of support calls, chats, and web forms using a customer engagement center model that employs a mix of web and voice channels for customers to get assistance on citizenship and immigration related information. So I'd like to discuss a little bit about the current situation and the current contract that we have in place. We call it the Tier 1 contract because they're providing Tier 1 services. It was awarded against the GSA IT Schedule 70 contract. The incumbent you'll see is General Dynamics Information Technology, and the current value of the contract is roughly $250 million. It was awarded as a 5-year contract. It is a mixture of firm fixed price and fixed unit pricing arrangements. And by fixed unit price, that was for telephone inquiries, live chat, and web forms. So that is our current state. And I would like to put out a few disclaimers. We are very early on in the reacquisition process for this contract. So decisions have not been made for the follow-on acquisition strategy. We are trying to just start market research currently so that we get a better idea of where we potentially have gaps and where we want to go in the future. So because of that, our current contract ends in August of 2026. Our plan as it is today is that we will start market research in the form of requests for information, sources sought, and also draft RFPs. And yes, I'm also a very big proponent of having some draft evaluation criteria in our draft RFPs so that you have the opportunity to help us by responding to the appropriateness of that evaluation criteria. So please expect that to start coming out by the end of the current calendar year. Our intention is to post that on the System for Award Management, or sam.gov, so please look for it there. We're not currently on the Acquisition Planning Forecast System, or APFS, which if you attend those quarterly calls, you'll recognize this slide as a template for that call. But our expectation is by the beginning of fiscal year 25, we will have this slide fully populated and start briefing that out on a regular basis so that you can chime in and help give us information and ask questions during the solicitation process. Here you'll see some program POCs. They are not here with us today, but you are welcome to reach out while we are in the market research phase and ask any questions of them or of myself. My contact information, I believe, is in the slide deck later to come. But our program POC or contracting officer representative for this is Tiffany Vizina. Our contracting officer is Mr. Bruce Helms, and our contract specialist who will be working that recompetition is Crystal Creaser. So what I'd like to talk about a little bit now is kind of the future state, or where do we go from here? So the federal government spends roughly $20 billion a year on contact center support. And unfortunately, there's a lot of information out there that suggests that a lot of that money is being spent on outdated technology and processes. And that's something that we want to take a really close look at for the recompete of this contact center contract. Contact centers, as you know, play a very crucial role in making meeting government goals and optimizing the customer experience. So as we look at our future state for the contact center and what our vision is for the future, we're going to be looking to see what gaps exist. And some potential areas that we'll be looking at are workforce management. So we have some unique challenges under this contract, such as the fact that we need bilingual speaking agents. And sometimes that's a challenge, making sure that the manning or the staffing is appropriately staffed with the people with the skill sets to be able to communicate with our customer base. Some other unique challenges we have are in areas of training, quality monitoring, knowledge management, and as Al will speak to in just a moment, emerging technology. It's changing very, very rapidly. So as we start looking at the acquisition follow-on, we will be looking at contracting models for the future, including what potential vehicles we can utilize, whether or not we have an appropriate length for the contract or we need to adjust that going forward. We'll be looking at the pricing scheme under the contract. And very important, we need to make sure that the next generation contact center contract ensures innovation and continuous improvement. So essentially, we need a service that remains relevant throughout the life of the contract, one that keeps pace with the current consumer market and technology trends that we are seeing. So here is what our ask is to you as we move forward and we post these RFIs and sources sought out there. Some of the things that we're going to be looking to get feedback from industry on is how to mitigate risks in a government contact center operations contract. Probable pricing arrangements that would make sense for the work and also for the technology and innovation that needs to occur under the contract. How to structure the contract so it is agile, so that it responds to our changing needs. We need something that is flexible and not static in time. We'll be looking for best practices in call center operations, including the best metrics for evaluating performance, what benchmarks we should be using, and how do we define and measure success. We'll be looking at potential incentive structures. And as we spoke about earlier, some evaluation strategies as well. So with that, I am going to turn this time over to Al, who is going to share and express external affairs vision for the future of the contact center. And following that, we will remain up here for any questions that you have regarding this contract. Thank you.
Thanks, Marion. Great to see everybody here. I'm Alice Gallus. I oversee the Access and Information Services team for the agency. It's a long name. What that basically consists of is our contact center operations, as you heard Mary talk about. We also oversee the My USCIS program and the self-help areas and a little bit of language access support to the agency as well. A little bit about me. I'm not only an employee, but a customer. I immigrated from Egypt with my family back in the 80s. I share that with you to give you an idea of the perspective that I think so many of us in the agency and in this room have when it comes to customer experience and what that means in this space. I should have got to learn to push the big button here. My apologies to you. So when we talk about customer experience within the immigration world, I think it goes with an implication that this is perhaps one of the most complex journeys that our customers are going to go through in their lifetime, and one that carries perhaps the most demanding and the most rewarding result at the end, which is becoming a citizen of this nation and also being a recipient of the benefits that get there. When we look at how complex that journey is, we also look at it through the lens of the expectations our customers have. So they apply within our system, they apply within our regulations, but that system exists within this ecosystem that has really elevated what customers expect from government and what customers expect from any organization they're dealing with. So when we look at our challenges, I wanted to just give you some context into where we see ourselves currently and where we're headed in the future within that realm, that customer experience, supporting that immigrant as they navigate their way through that journey. When we talk about the current experience that they have, as I just mentioned, processing times could be very long. Some of these benefits that customers are applying for could take years, if not decades, others months. It's very long and very dynamic, where they're seeing things change and how long they could expect to get their benefits. Due sometimes to the nature of the technologies that we have or the processes that we have, other times due to the very nature of the application process, we're not able to share case status to the level that our customers would be able to reduce some of their uncertainty. And when we do, sometimes it creates more confusion and uncertainty because of the complexity of it. We have account tools that are emerging and that are going to provide incredible benefit to our customers. Although right now they're still limited and based on what type of applications they're putting in and where they're coming from. So that's the challenge. That's the experience that they currently have. Here's where I'd like to share with you where I think some of the expectations that they have before they start. And this comes from expectations of just dealing with government agencies at large, but primarily from dealing with private sector businesses as well. That they're first expectation is that they get their benefit within a reasonable processing time. Reasonable is relative, and I think what we found as we ask our customers about their expectations, they understand it takes a long time, but again, that's a very relative area. Transparency is probably the biggest experience or expectation that customers have, and when you think about the amount of information that I'm exposed to, you're exposed to in any interaction as a customer, it certainly is a little bit different when you're dealing with the immigration process. And then finally, that within this complex system, that things are made easier. Things are made simple and they're intuitive. They're able to interact with these things. I'll pause here and share with you that you heard Larry, you heard others talk about customer experience and our employee experience. I think when we look at our contact center and where our customer experience program sits and does for this agency, it's a bridge between those two as well. So at our best, it's when we are collaborating with our industry partners and able to innovate how that experience could be. And when we have a great customer experience, when our customers feel that they're empowered and they're able to share information as well as get information, that also directly ties to our employee experience and our adjudicative capability. So when our customers are less uncertain, when they're smarter about the process, that's going to lead to more accurate applications and faster processing times for us. So I share that with you in that it is not just customer service. It is a connection between those two, and that's one of the things we're going to be looking for as we partner with our agency partners going forward. I'll share a little bit with you about historical data that goes into when customers do connect with us, what are they asking us about? This should give you a little bit of indication into, again, the expectation that they have and the things that are top of mind for them. So most of the inquiries that come to us fall under their case status. Where's my case? What are the next steps? What can I expect as the next steps, and how long do I need to wait? Outside of that, there's some transactional things that they connect with us for, meaning I need to schedule an appointment because I need to do some travel, or I need an adjudicative appointment to resolve an issue that I'm having. That should give you hopefully a sense of why customers contact us. When we look at how they're contacting us, and this is a big transition as we look to the future of this contract. Historically, this has been a phone-centric operation. This has been a phone-centric capability. A customer picks up the phone, calls the 1-800 number, sits on hold for a good period of time, and then has to go through that hierarchy of escalation to get where they're at. I think we've evolved from that tremendously, and we're looking to grow even more. When we ask customers how they want to talk to us, what channels do they want to talk to us through, it is through those self-help channels. They want to be able to send us secure messages in their account. They want to be able to live chat with us in real time. More so than anything, they want to be able to access that information and that services at a time and a channel of their choosing. I think all of us now, have our iPhones in our pockets, and we can easily connect with any service that we have within a few thumb strokes. That is the same expectation that we have here, in that it's an account-based self-service that empowers that customer to really be able to find what they need when they need it on the channel that they need. There's going to be a significant role, and I think a pivot when we look at our partners and how do we provide and support that new shift. So as Mary mentioned, this is the tier 1 of a multi-tiered operation on the contact center side. It really, when you look at it holistically, it starts with what we refer to as tier 0. That tier 0 is that digital space. Most folks come to us through the website. There's a simple Google search about whatever benefit they have, and from there they find our agency either on the web or through the 1-800 number, which is posted everywhere. Almost always their first interaction with our agency is through our agency partners. This contact center tier 1 representative that represents really the first connection of how complex this process is going to be and the level of service they're going to get. When their issue is not able to be resolved there, we have a tier 2 and a tier 3 center that is located in 3 areas across the United States. That's in New York, LA, and Kansas City. And those are staffed with our immigration officers that really can resolve just about anything that our customer needs. And again, across those multi-channels that I put up earlier. And finally, we have a tier 4, small yet mighty team that really looks at the cases that might have fell off track or that require a certain higher level of resolution. I wanted to put some numbers up front for you as far as volumes, just to kind of give you an idea of what we look like for the various channels that we have now. And when you look at this trend, I think I'll point out a couple of things. From 21 to today, we're seeing about the same number of people calling our 1-800 number, so about 12 million or so. About 1 out of every 4 or 5 of those will have a need to go to a live help in a tier 1 center. That's this contract. When we look at things that we've expanded, that was strictly over the phone and the IVR. That second set of numbers represents Emma, who's our virtual agent on our website, and the ability that we've built out to go from being able to interact with Emma and ask questions that are automated to getting to a live chat through a tier 1 agent. That number is growing steadily, and we're investing more and more. That's one of the channels, along with the secure message that you see at the bottom, that we're really looking to pivot towards. And as you see those numbers, I'm hoping in 2 years when I'm having this discussion with you, you almost see this chart flipped, and that where most of our volume is coming in through those secure channels, through those digital channels, and less so over the phone lines. So when we look at our strategy for the future, these are just some of the basic tenets that we've developed and that we're pursuing that really are born from us listening to our customers and listening to our industry partners in what's happening in that customer experience space. We know that the future is going to rely somewhat, if not heavily, on artificial intelligence and machine learning, empowering customers to resolve issues by themselves and in that space that they need in those digital channels. At the same time, we also want to leverage AI and machine learning to help our contact center agents provide that level of support. So it's both customer facing as well as employee facing. We want to be able to do what we currently do on our online account, which is verify who you are through a set of protocols. We want to be able to do that, which many agencies already are and organizations, over the phone using customers' voices. We want to be able to integrate our channels so that you might have started your connection with us through a live chat on your phone, but you got to a point where you need to pivot to another channel. You're seamlessly going to the phone or seamlessly offered a secure message or any other channel to help resolve your issue. And then finally, when you do need to get to live assistance and you're no longer in that self-help realm, that you're offered an opportunity to do it at the time of your choosing and on the channel of your choosing, and able to do it at your convenience. And then finally, as I mentioned about language access, you can imagine with our customers, language is a huge enabler, but it could also be a huge blocker to the services that people are pursuing. So we want to make sure we continue as we look at more channels that we're being inclusive and offering those same language access across all of those channels. And as we get more digital, that we realize there's also a need to make sure people are able to counteract and resolve access issues to their accounts, and that we're not blocking them. So we see the tier 1 side also being heavily leveraged towards helping people get access and resolve their access to their account issues. So that's the future of where we're going. I'm really excited to hear from you all and to be able to engage in any discussions. Mary and I will be here for now, and we can just open it up to Q's and A's. What do we think, Mary?
Oh,
all right.
Absolutely. If you have any questions about this
Please.
contract, please step up and we'll have a conversation.
Good morning. My name is Andy Lieber with Venterra Corporation. What is the relationship between my USCIS and the contact center, either competing or complementary?
Excellent. Thank you. Was that Andy?
Yes.
Andy, thank you so much for that. Initially, I would tell you over the last 10 years or so, the My USCIS program started and evolved. The contact center program was also equally moving up and advancing. I think what we've seen over the last 5 years is the merging of those two. Because when we say we want a seamless integrated channel strategy for our customers, My USCIS represents that self-help, that authenticated experience where I log into my account. We want to make that a bridge to live help, which currently exists, right? When you look at it historically, currently exists on the phone. So what we're looking from our partners is to be able to look at all the channels that potentially could exist in the authenticated space, to include live chat, to include secure inbox, and potentially phone messages and phone inquiries, and to have that connected. So oftentimes, I think what we're seeing now is that experience doesn't just start on the web, it starts on the My USCIS platform, meaning I'm logged in, I bump into a problem, now I need to call the contact center and resolve it. Or in a better scenario, send a secure message to the contact center or chat with them. So that's the integration we're hoping to see between the two.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Lisa Goldberg, Publicis Sapient. What are your thoughts on measuring success over time and customer satisfaction and user research to make sure you're going in the right direction and continually improving?
Thank you so much. And we're really looking at ourselves first to see what are those success metrics that we need to put in place. As you could tell, oftentimes in the contact center space, that was around outcome-based or rather output-based metrics like average speed of answer or how long it took to handle a specific interaction. Customer satisfaction certainly was a big one on that interaction itself. As we look to the future, what we're looking for is more outcome-based metrics and ultimately answering the question, did we fully resolve your issue when you brought it to us? And did we do it as quickly as we possibly could after that initial contact with us? So to operationalize that metric, we've looked at making sure that we're surveying frequently and after immediate interactions, but also looping back and looking at the grades we get for resolving and seeing if customers are constantly coming back asking the same question because they have not resolved that issue. And yeah, and I would say, I mean, I think for our industry partners, that's something we would definitely look for is ideas and innovations on how do we create those very soft metrics sometimes, and how do we do that in a dynamic way where we're able to react to it quickly. Thank you so much for that.
Good morning. I'm Rafael Sacher with Paragon Micro. Question on, you guys mentioned technology modernization as a major effort. What do you view as, sort of initial scope for, main technology modernization efforts that'll take place with the refresh?
Yeah, so if I understood right, are we, what are we looking at as far as technology modernization within the contact center space? Yeah, great question. And I think when we look at not necessarily just our tech stack, but the capabilities that are present in the contact center space and concurrently with our My USCIS program, it's the ability to really look at what's happening in the AI machine learning space and being able to leverage that towards doing a couple of things. First, being able to provide responses to customers, perhaps in a way that is much more efficient and much more intuitive for the customer, as well as being able to support our officers and our agents that are providing that support. I think when you look at it, when it grows to full maturity, what I would love to see is the ability to have that type of technology really lead a self-serve, customer-empowered experience with our contact center team in direct support when things are not able to be achieved in that area. Thank you.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for being here, Mr. Escalis and Ms. Shinny. A quick question that I had, Kurt Anderson with Management Concepts. Ms. Shinny, you mentioned in some of your initial comments about training support. And could you elaborate a little bit more as to what is that within the context of the team and internally to CIS, or is that on a larger scale and external to that?
Yeah, when I discussed that, I was thinking along the lines of the training support to the call center staff and making sure that they have the knowledge that they have to resolve the issue, be able to transfer it appropriately, have the scripts that they need in order to work off of. And that's something we've experienced a lot of turnover. I think that's probably something that's common in call center support contracts is a lot of turnover. You need to be able to get those new agents up to speed rather quickly. So what are the management tools that are in place to make sure that there is a seamless transition and that we're not constantly, re-educating the staff?
No, thank you very much. One of the things that I suggest possibly, and I know you're a ways out, but possibly if that's actually called out as a task, as opposed to it being inherently assumed in order to support that, then you actually are able to drive metrics against that, that the individuals are actually trained and come up to either a certification level or something using current technology. So thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm sort of going to piggyback on that sort of one. In terms of contracting, have you considered a multiple award BPA and then extend the period of performance to 5 years? That lets you have task orders that are, say, a 2-year contract. So if 2 years, if your metrics aren't being met, you can recompete it. You could also issue white papers to the BPA holders, white paper requests, so that you can get the latest technology. What is AI capable this month rather than a year ago? So you could have shorter task orders, but that way all the task orders are tied. You have a smaller vendor pool, so you can do things more rapidly, more agilely, and more at the state of the art.
Appreciate that, and thank you very much. I appreciate that, and we are certainly going to look at a lot of different methods of obtaining the service in the future. And ironically, if you've followed this contract for a while, you'll know that initially we actually did have a multiple award IDIQ and transitioned away from that for, I'm sure, good reasons at the time. So I appreciate that feedback. It's something that we will consider and look into.
Good morning, Said Singh with FIDUS. You mentioned emerging tech, and I think we all throw around the words AI and ML because we love to hear it. But do you have a vision for what that looks like? And does that mean integrating with DBiz and looking at the environment that they've already stood up to say, how do you integrate generative AI or machine learning and NLP that's already being used with other divisions or other programs within CIS? And then how does that build into what's happening at UIP with CBP and kind of bringing that to a bigger picture versus just AI for the contact center, and if so, can you articulate a little bit about what that vision might look like? Thank you.
No, thank you so much for that question. And it really is whenever we're talking about how we leverage AI in this space, it really is part of a broader strategy and a broader vision, right? I think ideally, what if we were to look down the road, 3 to 5 years from now, it is an environment where customers are able to get the information that they need and interact in a way that's meaningful to them. But that also envisions an integration. Right? When you mentioned about all the systems that we have that need to be integrated to that is critical. That is critical. And I think leveraging a lot of the AI visions and strategies that are currently in place that potentially are inwardly facing. But I think what we are looking at is that anything we do to at the one end of the spectrum to automate and make things more efficient, all the way to being able to have generative and predictive analytics involved in being able to get customers fairly accurate information and being able to allow them to interact in a secure space where in the past that would have been with a live agent to have that within the AI enabled realm. It's bigger. It's definitely much bigger than just contact center interactions. I think for us, we're very much agile focused, and I think we want to execute fairly aggressively on those visions. So we look at phases. What can we accomplish in the next 2 years? What can we accomplish in the next 5? And being able to to execute on that. Hopefully that answers a bit. I know I tap danced around it a little, I think.
No, appreciate it. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
I do just want to take a second to jump in with some questions that have come into the chat, if that's okay. So the first is, as part of the user's experience, how much does outbound communication play? And how does the customer trust that the call is actually from USCIS and not a scammer?
No, thank you so much for that. And a great question, right? So when we used to look, and I think to some extent, right, we looked at our engagements with customers through a couple of different lenses. There was outbound calls, us calling the customer. There were inbounds when we were taking a lot of live services. And when we talk about the phone channel, there was always a risk of scam, risks of us being presumed to be scammers, and also a lot of bad actors in that space, as you all know, that took advantage of our number being very public. So a couple of different thoughts on that. As we look to the future, we want to make sure that we're meeting customers where they want us to meet them, right? And in that space, it's being able to give them a 24/7 channel to be able to interact with, and that is through the account, my USCIS account, and from that being able to identify when is a good time to connect with us on the live channel side of things, on the live help. Right now we're open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on the live channel, on the live help side of things, on any coast, really, any place that you that you're going to be in the continental United States. So within that, we want to pivot away more so from the phones and that risk of being able to be scammed, and move to secure messages, live chats, and being able to interact in the account. So that's the long term. And I think outbound versus inbound, most of our tier 1 calls right now are inbound calls. Those are people calling us on the 1-800 number. I think as we look at this in 2 to 3 to 5 years, we want that inbound interaction to be on the self-serve, that tier 0 side, and for us to be making connections with customers based on when they've identified for us. So think about scheduled callbacks, think about offers to live chat at a time that they're able to schedule, or a window they're able to schedule. And great question, thank you.
I think this question goes well with the first one. So the question is, you showed the different tiers that a customer would move through. Are you able to follow the customer journey from end to end, especially when tier 1 is the outsourcer?
Great question. And when we say, are we able to follow that customer journey, we're getting better. Something I think we're looking for our industry partners to help us with. Right now, if you go back a few years, our different tiers operated on different systems and different platforms. So it was a challenge just to get even us connected to where the customer, actually very saw that transition be a hard stop. So right now, yes, I think when we look at the customer following through from one channel to the next, from one tier to the next, we want it to be at least integrated, preferably on the same platform, so it gives us the data that we're looking at, and to have it be a seamless one. You're not starting over again just because you moved a tier, you moved from one channel. To have that interaction seamlessly flow. Again, looking for industry partners to bring some great ideas to that, and to see where we can improve for sure.
Thank you. We'll take one last question for the CC21 acquisition.
Thank you very much for your insight. Bobby Bermudez with Composite. My question is, as a small business owner, are there opportunities for small business subcontracting, and how are those goals being met and upheld on a current contract? Say, I know the current incumbent is GDIT. How are there opportunities for small businesses for us to innovate and participate to the agency? Thank you.
I appreciate that question, and we will be looking at the opportunity for small business subcontracting if, in the event that we don't set this aside. Again, these are acquisition determinations that are still a ways off from us, but will hopefully be fleshed out through market research, and your feedback during that market research phase will be crucial. But under the current contract, the contractor has an overarching plan through GSA, so we aren't managing it at the task order level. But that is definitely something that we will be considering as we go through the acquisition process on the next go around.
All right. Well, thank you so much for all the great questions. Really looking forward to connecting with you throughout the day. And again, thank you for being here and being great partners. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now have the opportunity to welcome Stuart Sellers, who will be introducing the next topic. I apologize, I don't have my cheat sheet here.
All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Stuart Sellers. I'm going to be talking to you today about the procurement for the Records Operations Support Services, which is ROSS. I've been with the agency now since 2015. You've probably seen my name associated with quite a few requisitions out there, Falcon, ASC, BIMS, BDSO, and things of that nature. So, and also Daniel Beeson will be talking to you more about the IRIS portfolio as a whole. So today we're talking to you about the Records Operation Support Services contract. Currently, it's under Cognac Brilliant. We do anticipate it continuing to be an open market requirement between 100 and that should be $200 million range. We are anticipating setting it aside for small business. Currently, it is in the 8A program. We are looking at the PWS to see about some of the changes that we're anticipating based on the agency's continuing development for digitization. So we do anticipate doing a release of a draft RFP, and we also are anticipating doing an in-person industry day. Right now, that will be at the National Record Center in Lee Summit, Missouri. They also have a facility in Kansas City, and they also have the one at Harrisburg also. So the primary function of this, it's a very labor-intensive contract. They are the folks that are receiving and distributing at the NRC a lot of our records, pulling those records, shelving those records, and things of that nature. We do anticipate this being kind of a firm fixed price CLIN structure, and the anticipated evaluation criteria right now is very similar to what we did last time, doing the management and technical approach, your corporate experience, past performance, and price. So that's really it for the Ross contract. With that, I will turn it over to Daniel Beeson.
Okay. Big green button clicky, right? Yes. All right. Hi there, everybody. Good morning. Nice to see everybody out there today. My name is Daniel Beeson. I'm the communications advisor within IRIS. Thanks, Stuart, for introducing me, and nice to see you all here. I used to be an IT PM with U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, so I've actually been on the other side of this during some of your oral presentations. So this Q&A should be fun for you. So, let's talk a little bit about IRIS from the perspective of who we serve and how we do it. I think is probably the best way to get into to what we do. So, who are all these people that we help? And what really is the common thread in what they do? The common thread, I'll answer that one for you guys. It's all information. And that is what we do more than anything else here, is we are sort of the middle child in this situation. You guys just heard from Alice Gallus. It's a little tough to follow Hendrix, but here I am doing that. He talked to you guys a little bit about how the information comes into USCIS, how we're getting applications for benefits, every little request that they're making of us, how they're giving us information. We collect it, we package it, we store it, and we make it accessible to everybody else within USCIS, and then out to the rest of the world where that's needed. In programs like E-Verify and SAVE, you guys are familiar with all of those. Certainly within the federal government to the Department of State, the Department of Justice, and within USCIS as far as to groups like Field Operations Directorate. You guys will hear from Natalie in just a minute, so that they can make decisions on what happens with all this immigration information. And let's see, we'll go to the next slide. So that's us. We are the business operations people in this situation. We're not IT, we're not policy. We are, focused mostly on delivering that information. And we're always asking, I think probably key to everything that we're doing, how can we do our jobs? How can we deliver this information better? How can we make that smoother? How can we make it easier for people to get and to understand where it's coming from? And so as you guys are looking to work with us, we're hoping that you'll do that as well. And I should also say that since you heard from Stuart on the Ross contract, a lot of what he was talking about is very physical in nature. It's coming from the National Records Center. It's going to be the point of service there, or probably some loading docks in the very back of a giant cave in Kansas City, Missouri. And that's probably not what a lot of folks here are here to work on, but there will certainly be some, I'm sure, in the audience or maybe watching online who handled that. For everybody else, we're talking more about the innovation side of what we do here within IRIS. And I should say as well, for the things in that cave, well, let's see, we'll go here first. Let's talk about where we're going a little bit. The big focus for everything that we're doing within the cave and within this giant ecosystem of 100 million records that we're managing across USCIS is that we want to get everything to 100% digital. So we're going to be at that for some time to come. If you guys have seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, the cave is a lot like that, with things stacked to the ceiling for what we have in paper records. But within those paper records are really the answer for everything that we need to do when someone needs to make a decision. I saw somebody snapping a picture there, so I'll give you time for that. All right. And who can tell you guys how best to manage things as far as Ross and the paper situation and things like that? Probably Stuart. The rest of this presentation is going to be largely focused on the digital aspects of all this. And hopefully you'll be having some good ideas as we talk about this, have some things spring to mind that you want to pitch us for how we can take on this gargantuan task. So at the NRC, for example, I'll give you guys one way that we're doing that, has been through our FOIA program. As you can see here, we manage the largest Freedom of Information Act program within the federal government by a long shot. It's doubled within the past 10 years. It used to be about 200,000 a year. Now we're up to about 400,000 a year requests, FOIA requests. You may remember the FOIA statute of 1976. You guys all remember that from school? No? Okay. Well, it was set up to make government information as quickly available to you as possible and set up for us to send things back to you within 20 business days. That is quite a task for all of these things that are coming back and forth on trucks, just whipping around our systems and things like that for us to be able to handle it. So we did not at the outset have a fantastic system to manage this about 10 years ago. We worked very hard with contract teams to look at what they needed within the FOIA program at the NRC to understand their needs for it. And they built a very nice system for this called FIRST that has been handling all of the records as we scan them in and things like that, be able to get them to where they need to go from around the country, on the desks of people that are managing cases, making decisions on cases. Hey, we need that for a FOIA request. They can scan it, they can get it back to us within the FIRST system, and then we can get it right back to the person that needs it. This is sort of a hidden drag on some of the immigration applications for benefits that you have out there, because it's often the first step that people are going to take before they file a request for an immigration benefit. Of course, their attorney, when they walk in, they need to say, well, what does USCIS know about you? And so that is all made through a FOIA request, and we figured out how to make it get back to them much faster. One interesting innovation that we've had on that recently is the first FOIA API, or actually the first API that we've released under the Torch program with USCIS, so that immigration attorneys can actually make FOIA requests right from within their own immigration case software. So possibly something that would be interesting to the contract crowd around here. So that is FOIA. Now let's talk about our Identity and Information Management Division, IIMD, sort of an interesting acronym. So these guys are mostly focused on systems as well. And this is out of the FOIA range. This is really how we get information around to folks within USCIS, how we get it to, say, the Department of Justice, how we get it to the Department of State, for anybody that needs to see, what's going on in a case file, CBP, ICE. How can we get that information to them so that they can make a decision as quickly as possible, when they're under the gun to do so. So when we last added them up, and we asked the division chief of this for this answer, we had 100 million records that we're handling across all different USCIS systems and services and within the cave. So if I can put that at scale for you guys a little bit, if you can think back to your first worst job, maybe sometime in the 1990s, managing a file room, if you've got 1,000 files in there, okay, that's a doable job. But if you multiply that by 100,000, that is not a very doable job, and that's why we are highly reliant on technology to make this work out. So IIMD covers most of that. They are used by more than 50,000 DHS employees, all their different systems. That's like Stacks, Rails, if you guys have heard of those. And they're currently overseeing an enterprise digitization project to handle some of the paper records that are coming across, the things that we have going on in the cave. And as we're intaking information, things that are not going through my USCIS, as Al explained to you guys a few minutes ago. Once we have things in and we have them digitized, once we have them in these systems, we also have to solve another fundamental immigration problem, one that goes back a couple centuries, and that is identity. So if you can imagine, if we had someone come to the country in, say, like 2005, and they're in Texas, and they file some application for immigration service or immigration benefit, and that piece of paper goes out, is into the cave, it's taken care of, all those sorts of things. We still need to be able to find their information and pair it together with anything that they file now. Say they're in New York, say they're in California, and make those two match up. This is a gargantuan job. And the way that they've done it for 200 years, the only answer was paper. But paper, as we know, it takes a lot to move it around. It takes a lot to store it. It takes a lot to find the thing that we were looking for. So that's where they're really focused on IIMD. They're focused on identity. So these are tying things to biometrics. These are tying things to A numbers. This is quite a bit of work that has to be done, but for Jack Ryan or Jack Bauer or Jason Bourne or James Bond or any other J person who goes into a computer system and quickly looks up like, who's this person I need information on, and they always pop right up. That doesn't just happen by magic. That's what IIMD is working on. And one of the reasons that we need this so fast, we'll talk a little bit about what the verification division does. So you guys are all probably pretty familiar with E-Verify. Everyone in this room has probably been E-Verified, since all federal contractors are required to do that for working on a contract. So these are folks when they're just been hired or being checked with E-Verify. As you can imagine, we need that information back pretty fast so they can actually start work on the job, and everything can be followed to the letter of the law. In some states, E-Verify is mandatory. In some, it is still voluntary. There are many companies that you're probably familiar with who are using it all the time. We recently saw it at Disney. You'll see it at Panera. You'll see it at, I don't know if you'll see it at Tyson's Foods if you're hanging around there, but they need to do it as well. Some of the biggest employers in the company or in the country are doing that. So E-Verify is highly reliant on being able to match up the immigration records that IIMD is taking care of and making sure are going into our systems. And at the NRC with the Ross contract, when they're coming off those loading docks and being put into the right places within the NRC and ideally scanned and ideally digitized. The SAVE program, I'm not going to say everything behind the entire acronym because I often mess that up. They also work with federal, state, and local governments. I should say from the outset that I too am not just a USCIS employee, but also a customer, you might say. My mother-in-law, she just immigrated from Brazil. She got saved, as you might say. And in this sense, and it was interesting to see how different parts of Virginia government that she was interacting with them to be able to just get a driver's license. It's as simple as that. But they're highly reliant on DHS, USCIS records that we're getting the information from and getting into all these different systems and then connecting with them back on to be able to handle this and make sure that everybody is verified and getting the benefit that they should get. And we can talk a little bit about what success looks like, particularly for you guys. For us, I think you guys have heard the word agile, agile, agile a lot. I adhere to that myself as also part of my religion, especially as a former IT PM here at USCIS. But we really are focused on continuous learning here, and we like to move fast. We like new ideas. I think a few of you probably are familiar with my boss, Tammy Meckley, who I'm here to support and speak on behalf of, a very move fast type of person. And that is what we are trying to do here, is bring in as many innovations and ideas to it as we can. We do want you guys to focus on the practices, the general things that come in when you start working with us on a contract. But we also want you to start asking some questions that we hadn't thought of. We're always looking for that sort of thing to grow our business. As you can tell from all this, immigration is not very simple. Neither is the information that we're handling here. The innovations that you guys come up with are what's going to guide us into the future to do this just endlessly better. And so for that, with connecting back with us on the good ideas that you have in the weeks to come, if you have that shower moment or you wake up at 3 a.m. like, what did that Beeson guy say? I think I got an idea based off that. We do want to hear from you. Probably the best way to do that is to contact Stuart, and he will get it to the right person within IRIS to be able to handle that. Thank you guys very much, and I'll sit over here and we'll take some questions. So we got it all. No, we paused for a moment.
I don't see any questions.
All right.
In the chat. None online.
All right, perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
All right, and with that, I will turn it over to our next speaker, Mr. Eric Bishop and Natalie Lalone.
Thanks, Stuart. I brought my notes because this is an exciting topic, so I'm going to try to stay on track here. So I'm Eric Bishop. I'm Associate Chief and a Contracting Officer in the Operations Division at the OCON office at USCIS. I'm going to take this opportunity today to talk about a upcoming procurement my team's going to be working on, and that's Field Office Support Services, also known as FOSS contract. The primary goal of this procurement is to provide customer support services to immigration benefits to 16 field offices throughout the United States. Part of the support comes by way of clerical staff to ensure USCIS is prepared to handle immigration application and petitions. Some of the other tasks necessary to meet these mission objectives are mail distribution and management, carrier services, processing files, auditing files, storage and maintenance, company support, ceremony support. If this doesn't sound like your cup of tea, stay with me, because the stuff that I'm going to talk about today, you can apply to a lot of the contracts that you're going to propose on here at USCIS. So we've been utilizing the FOSS support since 2000 in the structure that it's in right now, so we can anticipate that's going to be around for a bit. And with each recompete, we have new best practices and lessons learned that we can put into the new PWS that comes out on the next recompete. So this next iteration of the FOSS contract is going to be for a period of performance of 5 years, base 4 option years. It's going to be north of $120 million, and I anticipate the solicitation being issued probably the second quarter of 2025, with performance starting in the first quarter of 2026. So you heard me say there's going to be 4 option years on there, and options is something that I wanted to touch base on then real quick. When a contractor wins an award and they have a period of performance that shows 5 years of performance that comes in a base period and 4 option years, they may tend, and I'm not saying that this is any of you, to get a little complacent with their high speed, low drag performance that they gave us in the base year. So in order to exercise options, there's a couple of things that have to happen. Number one, there has to still be a government need. Number two, the price still has to be reasonable. And number three, there has to be sustained superior performance in the previous option year to move into the next. What I wanted to say is option years aren't given, they're earned. Just by way of you guys being here today and the crowd that we have, you're already taking the first step, leaning forward into partnering and providing win-win solutions with your company and USCIS for the FOSS contract. So how do you provide that kind of performance with FOSS and with other contracts? It might be a little easier if you recognize the challenges that come with the performance here. If there's one thing that's difficult to determine with any degree of certainty, it's the ebbs and flows of immigration applications, benefit adjudications, and processes involved, which is one of the challenges affecting this contract in particular. Unanticipated changes in workload, so much so that the contract has a high likelihood of being a time and materials labor hour contract. That should raise a red flag in your mind right now, because if you hear a time and materials contract solicitation out there, you have to immediately adjust your means and methods of how you're going to attack that, because it's not going to be firm fixed price. Firm fixed price, guess where all the risk is at? It's on you, and we appreciate that. When it's time and materials, that risk transfers to the government. We take on the risk, you take on the time and materials, labor hours work, which means you don't know what you're going to be giving, how long it's going to take, what the total dollar amount is, and what the scope of work is, because it's going to be a PWS where we're going to depend on your means and methods to get us where we need to go, and we're going to pay you the labor hours that it takes to get there. Whenever you're going to spend money like that and the risk is going to be on the government, that also comes with more government oversight. Probably something that you didn't want to hear, but if we have a time and materials contract, we're going to want to see where that money is going. We're going to want to be transparent into break time, data output. We're going to want to see where your labor costs are going, what labor directions that they're paying for. We want to know where our money is being spent and every single penny of it, which means that when you submit an invoice, it might not come through as approved on the first time. We work with you on time and materials invoices where there's many iterations that come back and forth. We work through some draft invoices to make sure that we get these correct in the way that they're supposed to be. So even with these kinds of option years and with time and materials contracts and how difficult it is with the ebbs and flows of the workload, what comes next to my mind is employee management. That would be pretty easy if it was a single location, a single building. FOSS contract spreads across the United States of America, from Texas to New York, Florida to California. We have offices in all of those places. And if you've ever been to all of those areas, they're all pretty and beautiful in their own ways, and they're just as much different, just like that. You can go to Texas, and then you can go to New York, and it seems like you're in a whole different country. So how are you going to manage employees with different kinds of backgrounds like that, different kind of cultures, and grown up in such different parts of the United States, and still have them perform stellar on your contract in order to get the option exercises? So you can't guarantee your next option year with your employees, and they're across the United States. So here's two pieces of intel I'm going to tell you from a contracting officer's perspective that you have to pay attention to when you're dealing with when you're looking at proposing on new contracts. And this might not be specific just to FOSS, but there's an onboarding process and a recruitment and retention process. The gentleman that asked the question earlier, that just tickled my ears, because he's talking about, should there be an evaluation factor in these contracts that talk about employee retention and employee recruitment efforts? I think so. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a future that's going that direction where you can weigh in more heavily on what kind of recruitment and retention you have when you have such an employee-centric contract. So everybody knows what the security clearances are and how those could be difficult to get through. And put yourself in the shoes of just winning a new contract award, and you're going to take 500 people that you have on deck and you're going to throw them on this contract. That's probably not a good idea, because what if only 250 of those folks actually make it through the security process to be able to do the work here? You just wasted resources and money on people that coming through the process that aren't going to make it through out the gate. So what could you do to make that better for yourself and for us? By implementing a robust pre-screening security process within your own companies, where you're only going to submit the best and brightest to us to get on this contract. Focus on the best. And you can't write that in your proposal that this is what I'm going to do What would be even better is if you're implementing those processes now that show the amount of people that you've put forward and the amount of people that actually make it through the end line. Those kinds of records are very appealing when you can see 99% of the people that you submit for security clearances are making it through the security process. You've heard the saying, focus on quality, not quality, not quantity, or vice versa, quantity, not quality, as if those two are so interrelated that you can't have the best of both. Well, these contracts are going to be trade-offs, which means we're willing to pay extra to make sure we have quality and quality both together simultaneously. And how can you do that? By demonstrating you can do that now, so that when you're turning in your proposals, you can see and you could demonstrate those. So now when you got employees that are going to only be able to be the best and the brightest, maybe option years that don't get exercised if they're not working extra hard out there, and the time and materials contracts with the ebbs and flows of workload, the disbursement of the people across the United States, retention and recruitment is the next thing I got to touch base on. Like Michelle said when she was on the panel, it's easy to get a contract and it's easy to get employees. Keeping them retained and keeping them working for you and working with us, partnering with us, that's the hard part. You have to think outside the box, unorthodox efforts that haven't been done before for retention of your employees. So here's what you could see out there. Cost sharing, gym memberships, child care, college tuition. That same old song and dance has been out there with so many other companies that are trying to recruit the same employees that you're trying to recruit that it might not be working anymore. It's time to think of ways, push the boundaries that you can retain employees that's not been done before. There's a company now who part of their retention process is they'll pay you to quit. So your first year that you're working there, they're going to offer you $1,000 if you quit that first year. And the second year, they're going to up the ante. If you didn't quit yet, they're going to pay you $2,000. And they pay you $3,000 the third year, and it goes until you get to $5,000 for 5 years. If you haven't quit yet, you're essentially paying that company to continue working for them. And what they've done there is the data has shown the psychological impact and the happiness and commitment of those employees working for that company. The data shows increased employee engagement, productivity, which leads to profitability. That company is Amazon. That's the recruitment effort and retention effort that they have that has worked for them. The reason I wanted to highlight that is because I haven't seen something like that before, and just thinking things that haven't been done in the past is worth implementing and providing those kinds of things in the future. So you'll notice in many solicitations that are issued, there will be a statement in there that says the contracting officer intends to award this without negotiations or discussions. And that is usually the goal. And the reason is because we hope to have everything written so well in that PWS it can answer all your questions to make you be able to provide a proposal that we're going to be able to award off of. I wanted to bring that up because there may not be a second chance for you to adjust your price or provide outside the box unorthodox thinking that might make you stand out from other contractors. So thanks for this opportunity and for your time this morning. The key takeaways are the robust pre-screening for employees that are going to be coming on board, security clearance and innovation in the ideas of recruitment and retention, and then submitting your best proposal up front. So now allow me to introduce Natalie Lalone, who's going to be speaking on behalf of FOD this morning. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. My name is Natalie. I'm typically the branch chief for communications and employee engagement, but for the last several months, I've been the acting branch chief over program acquisition and mission support. So this has allowed me to become near and dear to this FOSS contract and to really understand the impact that it has for our directorate. And I think to kind of piggyback on what some of Eric was saying to you, to really understand the needs and the impact of this contract, I think you need to understand who FOD is and where we are. As Eric mentioned, the contract itself right now has 16 locations, but FOD itself
is currently at 89 field offices across the country, 16 district offices, and not listed there, but 4 regional offices, our National Benefits Center, our Immigrant Investor Program Office, and our new Virtual Benefits Integrity Office. As Eric was mentioning, the workload in each field office can be significantly impacted by current events, as well as new legislation that may result in increased numbers of filings or immigration benefits. What I wanted to share a little bit about this morning too is really just the heart of FOD. As you'll see on the slide, you know, our vision or our tagline is really changing lives every day. And if you've ever heard our Associate Director, Michael Valverde, speak, you know, one of the big points that he makes is that we make the country safer, we make it more prosperous, and we do this on a transaction basis. And we do this not only for the nation, but we do this for those local communities. So again, those 16 offices that we're supporting, those people that we're hiring under this contract to come in to be mail clerks or file clerks or to provide these sorts of support services, they're truly a member of our team and they're pivotal to us to supporting our mission. Those files that they're handling, again, not just a file, that's a person and it's somebody's dream, and they're an important part of our process and how work flows through our field offices. So talking a little bit about our success factors, I know Eric spoke a little bit about being innovative, thinking about your proposals and thinking about how you're, you know, building your bench. I will say first and foremost, from what I've learned in my experiences working under this contract, the most important thing really, realistic proposals and the employee management considerations. When times are good, the economy is strong. You know, the base level for this contract is a high school diploma. You're competing with the hospitality industry, you're competing with other service industries. How are you building that bench? How are you selling our mission and your mission of your company and really, you know, engaging and encouraging people in those local communities to come and want to provide that support and to change those lives every day? What I think is a great factor to consider is that within FOD, we have seasoned field operations programmatic support. I know he mentioned that the contract itself has been around since the year 2000. Those who are supporting this contract have been doing so for 10+ years, have strong vendor relations, have seen it all pretty much under this contract, and are willing to work so closely with you to make sure that your contract is successful and that those who are performing these services are also successful in those functions. So looking a little bit more about FOD, since this is obviously a people-based contract and we're trying to think about who we are as field operations and really where we're going, I should say a little bit of where have we been going. You know, we've been looking at our business model and efficiency improvements. And I think that's an important consideration for a contract like this, because if somebody is pulling a file or they're heavily involved in those processes down on the front lines in our field offices, it's important that we're efficient. And you know, we've made a lot of strides in the last few years, and I know we continue to look at the way our processes are built and designed to be effective both for our customers, but also for our employees to make sure that the workloads are manageable and that service is provided in a succinct and successful fashion. In addition, scheduling improvements. How long does an interview take? Who should be assigned an interview? When should files be pulled? How does information flow? We've spent a lot of time being more data informed about how this is happening and how work is flowing and being assigned and what it looks like in each office. This is something we look at week to week, month to month, quarter to quarter, and are continually making adjustments to make sure that our scheduling is the most effective that it can be. Last but not, the third item, and I know you heard a lot from this from Daniel Beeson, but digitization, right? A #1 goal within USCIS is to become paperless, to have that electronic processing and all of those digitized files. That's no different in field operations, and we continue to try to strive to meet those goals. And last but not least, focused customer service and experience. And that doesn't just mean improving all interactions, but it's looking at the type of interactions that we're having. Is there a way to improve our processes or the flow of information to, you know, create more self-service opportunities? We recently had a pay.gov project that removed people from our lobbies and allowed them to use online services to be able to pay for things. But those improvements really impact the services that we're providing in our offices and the type of support functions that are happening behind the scenes so that we can be more effective to improve that experience. So that in a nutshell is pretty much FOD. I wish I had more jokes for you guys. I know my predecessors, they, you know, obviously they're a little bit more flashy with some of the technology, but I think the biggest takeaway here is really sort of the people aspect in the heart of our services and looking at that support that we can do on the front lines to really, you know, help us meet our mission and to work with those applicants and those customers, you know, from a process perspective to make sure that we're doing what we need to do to help serve them. So with that, I'm going to point it back to Eric, and if there are any questions, we're happy to take those.
Yeah, thanks. We can answer any questions now. If there are any. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Heidi Girding, High Tech Services. I think the contract acquisition strategy right now is small business. Are you expecting that it will remain small business?
So we are still in the market research phase right now, but that's definitely the first spot that we look at when we're looking at new contract awards, what kind of small businesses and what even other kind of socioeconomic businesses inside of those small businesses do something like that. Yes, answer your question, small business is going to be one of our considerations.
All right, I'll ask another question. In light, oh geez, now I feel like Danielle, I forgot what I was going to say, but it was a great question. I'll think of it after I sit down, I'm sure. I'll be back.
I just wanted to be the first so that you were all comfortable doing the same at some point today.
All right. I knew I'd have to sit down to think of this. I'm wondering whether or not there's a consideration for small businesses, if it does go small business. And I'm not sure where the FAR requirements are regarding this. And I've been doing this for 25 years now as my own business owner, but I'll have to go back and look. Past performance in an area like this for something as broad, Eric, as you've described, right? Nationwide, recruiting, retention. They're all minimum wage employees, so you're competing with the Chewies and the Amazons and everybody else to try to keep these people retained. Your indirect rates are going to be small because we're trying to win the contract with low rates, so there's not a whole lot of extra money there. In terms of past performance, some companies like myself have done work just like this, but then we graduate from the small business size standard because we've had a huge contract. So 5 years now go by, I'm back in my small business size standard, but the past performance requirements require that within the last 5 years, I have a past performance. Would you consider using corporate experience for size, scope, and complexity rather than past performance, and past performance being used to evaluate whether or not you're a credible contractor in order to make sure they get paid, the benefits are good, those type of things? Just a thought.
I'll let you take that one.
Okay, good. I appreciate the easy question. So don't forget we are still in the market research stages right now. So there's a lot still that we're learning from industry, and which is why we have some of these. But when we're talking about past performance and corporate experience, every contract we have is going to have, all of it's going to have past performance, but the corporate experience is something that we put in there as well. And the reason why we keep it, 2, 3, 4 years, we have to have it recent and relevant, because you see how fast so many things are changing right now, that if we go almost 5 years out, what everything looked like 5 years ago is not, doesn't even hold a candle to what it is today. Not only in just the work, but in the speed and efficiency in which we can get things done. So recent and relevant past performance is important, essential. And I would say the corporate experience, by replacing one of those, that's something that we'd really have to dig into to see if it's even something that we could consider. But like I said, when I was talking, I appreciate the outside the box thinking, because that's the way that we progress. So thanks for the question.
It's a good suggestion. The first group got so many hard questions. You must have something. But if not, we'll turn the mic back over.
There are no questions in the chat. But what we do want to do is open it up. We have some time for some general Q&A for any of our presenters so far this morning. So the leadership team or on any of the acquisitions that were discussed. So if, you know, as the morning went on, you thought of anything, now is the time. We have a few minutes.
Sorry to hog the mic, but there's so many questions. It's one of my favorite agencies. In terms of COVID has really impacted our ability to market to any of our customers because everybody's working virtually. I'm a firm believer that people buy from people that they know, trust, and they like. So do you have any recommendations on how best to get in front of the program people or the contracting officer such that it's a positive interaction, given the virtual nature of everything today?
Thank you so much. Reach out to us. So engagement is 100% key. And the key to a positive interaction is frankly how you frame it. If you're trying to be helpful and constructive, and you're aware of people's role and how much time and effort and energy went into formulating that acquisition and making that decision and guiding that market research, you can usually deliver a message that will be well received. And we are very open to that feedback. So again, just keep that in mind, but reach out to us, reach out to Mike. We will definitely coordinate for any program personnel for that touch point.
Amanda, can I piggyback off that as well? So another, really important tool that we utilize so often here at USCIS and really DHS as a whole is that acquisition planning forecast system. You'll hear it referred to as APFS. So really anything above the SAT, we publicize our intentions there. And at USCIS, we've been trying to be consistent about assigning points of contacts listed in those records. So typically what you'll see is the first point of contact is someone from the program side who has a little bit more of that technical knowledge of the requirement. And the alternate POC is usually someone from contracting. Typically the CO. So in terms of getting in touch with an appropriate POC for a specific requirement, that would be my recommendation, is really look to see if there's an APFS record out there and reach out to those assigned POCs.
And if you're ever having any sort of resistance, so again, we've all been around for a long time in the OFPP Mythbuster series, right? Engaging with industry and the do's and the don'ts and where are we in the procurement process. As we onboard new program personnel, new contracting personnel, if you ever have any resistance to have that communication and it's appropriate time to do so, make sure you're just elevating that to us, and we'll make sure that we educate those individuals on what they can share and make sure that we're having that open communication.
Hello again. Mohammed Minai with UCS. I have a kind of greenfield question here. There's a few contract styles where it's a R&D only type of dollars, where certain industries allow an organization to come in and just do research, paid research for that organization, whatever it might be. And sometimes they're smaller, sometimes they're bigger, but they're allow the opportunity for investment and experience to be leveraged in a past performance type of deal. And it allows kind of a real market research scenario where you get to see a contracting team in action on a, I mean, obviously it's R&D is important, but it's not like a mission critical contract. Is there an appetite at USCIS for that type of contract style and R&D type of investment?
I mean, certainly. So we're constantly evolving. So I feel like you were listening to a previous meeting I had with the department about expanding CSOP and OTA authority to USCIS. We're working on that. Very, very interested, and especially as a lot of the marketplace conditions, there's a lot more room in the space, like especially as we start delving into AI, where some of those authorities could be used. So if you have ideas or you see places where it could be utilized, definitely let us know, and we're more than open to explore how we can fit.
Lovely, thank you.
Danielle, oh, go ahead, Mike.
So, Amanda, I hear a lot from industry that if you don't have somebody on your team that has USCIS experience, or you as a contractor don't have direct USCIS experience, that you will not get a contract. How would you respond to something like that?
I think I will respond with Larry's talking point from earlier today, that we have awarded in one fiscal year alone 33 new contracts to new entrants, to the federal government, not even just to USCIS, but to the federal government. We are open, we are interested, we want your solutions, we want your creative ideas, we definitely want your non-traditional approaches. If you do not know this industry, there are barriers. Right? If you are not a federal contractor, what is SAM.gov? What is a UEI? What am I doing with XYZ? So we do a lot of facilitation. Definitely use Mike and certainly Danielle as conduits. We facilitate and participate in a lot of the engagements with the department, doing business with DHS. There's a great website there. They do a lot of webinars to really try and coach and educate individuals on how to start interacting with the federal government and how the dynamics work of federal contracting. But certainly within USCIS, understand us. Understand our mission, right? We do sometimes have fails with new entrants in the proposal process where they just don't understand. And so they might propose something that just isn't in the realm of possible for us. If you come in and you just assume we're 100% digital and there aren't limitations that exist in our space, your proposal will likely have some weaknesses. And so definitely take the time to learn about us and the program that you're trying to support, and you'll be much more competitive.
Hello, Amanda. Pembroke, Washington from Mantech International. A quick question. In general, when is contracting and programs actually ready to start talking to the industry about upcoming solicitations? The reason asked is a lot of companies start looking at solicitations, formulating questions as much as 2 years out for their coming. But then that might be too early for your contracting shop or program shop to actually have some meaningful conversation, because I know you have a lot of solicitations and work being done. So in general, what's your thoughts about what's a good time to start engaging contracting and program about upcoming solicitations?
All right, so it's probably not a one-size-fits-all answer, because some programs and some program offices are just much more proactive. I'll be just quite honest about that. And so while we are targeting about 2 years out to really start the recompete cycle, and certainly we're gearing up, we're starting to do market research, we're starting to look at things. We are doing internally, even within OIT, things like pre-concept briefings and concept briefings 2+ years out on acquisitions. So we're starting to think about it. But to your point, we don't always have the answers. We aren't really locking in on acquisition strategy, contract vehicles, the multi-phase evaluation strategy you might be looking for. We aren't ready to give you a draft PWS or frame out the requirement. So continue to just be engaged throughout that process. We'll give updates in our quarterly conference calls on the major acquisitions and really try and foreshadow where we are, where there's a draft RFI, for example, or draft RFP or an RFI for you to respond to, so that you can partner and engage. About a year out is our target for really firming up the requirement and being able to give you some solidified answers.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Emily Scantleberry and I'm with MetroStar. First of all, thank you all very much. I found this event to be quite informative up until this point. Looking forward to this afternoon. My question goes back to the first panel this morning from the OCON team. You mentioned something about providing more affordability ranges. I was wondering if you could provide any clarification or expansion on what you guys meant by that.
Absolutely. All right. So if I dial it back a little bit, who knows DHS's Procurement Innovation Lab? The PIL. All right. If you don't know it, Google it. There's a lot of great training classes and webinars. They're doing a lot to propagate some of the things, and many of the things that we've all done in federal government, some of their early ideas and initiatives that they're really trying to get the word out about were things like oral presentations and tech challenges, which we've been doing here at USCIS for 15 to 20 years. So one of the things that we have done that we have been doing in solicitations for, I would say, about 6 years now. And again, hit or miss, it's where we think it's going to add value. And it's really to direct and inform those who are interested in the acquisition about how much we think this effort will cost, so that we're not seeing widely disparate price proposals and or your strategy being driven by a constraint that may or may not exist in regards to price. So in those solicitations, it's literally as it sounds, an affordability statement. So USCIS expects this acquisition to run, I'll make it up, $35 to $40 million. And we are really guiding you based on our IGCE and our information about what we think is a realistic price without delving into the wonderful world of price realism. And so we're trying to stay away from that. For anyone who follows contract law and GAO protests, you're in a landmine as soon as you start really delving into price realism, and your acquisition timeline will plummet because you will spend an exorbitant amount of time delving into the world of information that's out there about labor markets and certain rates and what you can do, and looking at all of those things that drive prices. So the affordability statement is literally just that, and you'll see it in a solicitation, and it will try and set parameters. We have gone so far in a couple solicitations to say if you're outside of that, you will actually be found non-compliant with the solicitation.
One more,
Absolutely.
and then I'm done. AI, from the contractor's perspective. I've recently gotten some emails that have been written by AI, and I went back to ask the person because they were so perfect. Are you using AI to send me emails? And the response was, no, I'm using ChatGPT. I don't know. It was AI. So my question for you is, how has USCIS, have you guys thought about getting proposals that are written by AI and how you'll evaluate them? I know there's no FAR clause that precludes it, but what are your guys' thoughts on how proposals received using AI are going to be received?
Absolutely. So great question. We have thought about it. And as you're well aware, there is no way we can prohibit it. There is no way we can stop it. There is no technology that's going to help us pre-screen or vet for that. And so what I think you're going to see, and it's already a really heavy reliance in USCIS already, but I think you're going to see a pivot government-wide to a lot more of the in-person, right? So you can rely on AI to write your proposal. But when you get in a room, when you're doing an oral presentation, when you're doing a tech challenge, when you're doing XYZ, because let's get real, you could even use AI to write your code, right? It's going to be what you do with real people in the room that's going to inform us where your true capabilities are.
Hey, good morning. My question is related to small business, unrestricted, and sort of that never land in the mid-tier. And so we've seen with USCIS, we've seen it other places where very large contracts have been awarded in the small business space. Get a couple of those and you're out. Yeah. What is, I guess, USI, what is your perspective on how to deal with that conundrum, if you will?
Absolutely. So ultimately, we want to make sure that everybody is successful. So, right, what is the core tenet of the small business program, right? Small businesses are the backbone of America, of the United States. They're really the engine. We want to make sure you're successful. And so, unfortunately, we are governed by the rules that exist in the NAICS code size standard. So once you hit that, whether it's, employees, revenue, you do fall off and you fall in that netherland. It takes a year or two because you might have existing contracts. You're still getting options and things of that nature. And you heard, I think it was Heidi mentioned earlier, like she's now in that mid space and it's very hard. So what we really are trying to do and encourage is to bridge that gap. So there's a lot of subcontracting opportunities that exist. There's a lot of things that we can do with diversification of the portfolio, where some acquisitions that were previously 100% set aside one way or another that had maybe five different multiple awards under that. Maybe we're segmenting the task areas, and some are in different socioeconomic categories to include unrestricted, to allow some diversification of the contractor base and pool. We do want to facilitate, and this is something that has kind of fallen off in the pandemic, but in previous industry events, a lot of emphasis on different acquisitions and who is interested in that. So we can facilitate your partnership as primes and subs and really help build those connections so that you guys can come together in that space and deliver, because we definitely want those businesses still that have been invested in our programs, that have all of that institutional knowledge, that really have been successful to be able to continue to contribute with us. So those are just some of the things we're trying.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Do we have any questions, Danielle?
We do. We have one question. So it's a little bit lengthy. So language access is key to supporting a culturally/language diverse people requesting services. From a contract support standpoint, What challenges or pain points do you have with providing this language access, i.e. translation, interpretation, transcription, or other language services in support of USCIS operations across your enterprise? Additionally, as you modernize your communication medium, I would expect that comes with language ingested support to those medias, i.e. telephone, chat, digital support, etc.
100%. So I looked right to Rex here in the operations division. We have a couple of language-based contracts that we have in our portfolio, and it's dynamic, right? The number of languages that we need and the populations that come in that really require. So our biggest interpretation, our live interpretation, and even our telephonic monitoring interpretation requirements come in the asylum space, the credible fear and reasonable fear interviews. And so the populations that apply for that ebb and flow by nationality and therefore by language or primary language. And so what we have on contract at any given day may or may not support the sudden influx that arises from humanitarian needs. And so our biggest barrier, I'll be honest, is not the contractor's ability to access individuals who speak that language. It is our ability to get them through the security process and in a timely enough manner for us to be able to have them support that contract and that initiative. So that is, oh, Rex is, okay, we're good. So that is our biggest barrier in the language space. Somebody I heard in the audience said, AI. Trust me, we are all over it. We want to. Right now, we're having some pretty big barriers that we just need to really overcome in regards to safeguards and policies as it pertains in particular to transcription and translation of things that are PII, personally identifiable information, and nothing is more personal than someone's asylum incredible fear story. And so the last thing we want to do is start using things like machine learning and start having that data be out there, and we've got to really make sure we know how to govern and control that. But there are a lot of things that exist in this space that are very exciting that I think we will start to dip our toe in the pond, so to speak, in the coming years.
Another question is, will you provide a list of primes we can contact to offer our services as a sub?
100%. So I do believe we have some survey questions. I don't know if there was a question in there that says, do you mind us sharing that? I'm looking to Michelle. There is not. Okay. If you respond to that survey, so you guys have a lot of QR codes. If you haven't clicked on them yet, they're very exciting. One QR code for this morning's session has each of our contract actions that we talked about today and asks you several questions about if you're interested in pursuing and supporting that acquisition. And so if you are interested in supporting that acquisition and you want us to share your information, Mike is probably going to kill me, but I'm going to tell you to email the vendor outreach mailbox. You okay with that? Okay. And we will add you to essentially, we'll create that as a spreadsheet and we will distribute that to those who are interested.
I think we have the QR code. If you can advance the slide, I think it.
Oh, I have the clicker. It's sleeping. I think because they took control, maybe.
It's on the agenda. We do have it on the agenda as well. For those who have a copy. If you do not have a copy, just come see Mike Rye and we can get you a copy.
So the morning QR code, you have 3 QR codes on the back, I believe, on the back of the agenda. One was why would we put the agenda QR code on? There was 2 questions, 2 questionnaires, one for the morning. And then the survey, right? And then the survey. Okay. So the very first morning QR code, for example, talks about the 3 operation focused panels that we talked about today. There we go. Thank you. And so if you want, you can just take that right there. For those who are virtually, it should be on your screen and you should be able to scan that right there virtually. If you take that questionnaire, some of the questions ask you, and it has all of your contact information that we're asking you to fill out there if you're interested in that acquisition, to include your business size. And so if you're interested in sharing that information, because sharing is not a question, please email the USCIS vendor outreach mailbox. We will share that email address with you if you do not have it, but if you just Google USCIS contracting, it will show up on our website.
I have an idea. So the last question is your business, company name, everything. What if they put in parentheses prime?
Did we highlight how we have the best and brightest working for us here at USCIS? All right, to repeat, especially for those who are virtually, if you fill out this survey, the very last block has you filling out contact information. It's a free text field. Include in there if you would like your information to be shared. All right, some great things. We like to pretend we are agile as well. Thank you for that. Do you have anything else, Danielle?